My 8-year-old son hates me, and I don't understand why. I used to believe that your relationship with your children was a given. To clarify, I believe that as long as you treated your children with love, they were guaranteed to love you back, and that the most you had to worry about if you did the right things was some kind of terrible illness or accident that ended them early. I'm here today to warn you that's not true. There are worse possible outcomes. My son is 8 years old, and I cannot be in the same room as him without being attacked. He will scratch, hit, and bite me constantly until we are separated. He bites as hard as he can. My arms are 50% bruises right now from partially healed wounds. I have done nothing to deserve this, and I've tried everything to reach him. I've tried love, discipline, ignoring him, reasoning, nothing sticks, and as the years have gone on it's only gotten worse. He's already in therapy, we've already tried to get him diagnosed with something, we've tried meds, and we've tried no meds. We don't know what's going on, nor does his therapist or doctors. On Thursday I watched a movie. About time, very bittersweet movie about how time is limited and we need to enjoy it as we can. There's a scene where a boy of about 8 is playing on the beach with his father for the last time, enjoying one last beautiful day together. I absolutely lost it. My son only communicates with me through violence. Last night I finally gave up. I cried for hours and let go of any expectation I had of having a loving relationship with him. He's 8 years old and hates my guts. There are worse outcomes than outliving your children. Please don't take your loved ones for granted. Edit. Thank you to everyone for the advice. Special shout out to the super weirdo anti-catalysts, particularly the feminist, who made super sure to tell me she was a feminist before telling me to have a post-birth abortion. No single comment made me realize how ahead of the game I am as a parent than that one. We are getting a second psych evaluation soon, so I'll write a second post with results of that. Many of you are absolutely convinced someone else is abusing him, and are unwilling to accept evidence to the contrary. There is no sign of anyone in his life abusing him, nor is there much opportunity. When he's not at school he's with us, save for a few rare occasions where we get a trusted, close family babysitter to go on a date. We've asked him if anyone is hurting him or touching him and he has said no, and we make sure both our kids understand what's inappropriate and know they should tell us if anyone tries anything like that. This is the least likely possibility. Edit. I've created a follow-up post for those who are interested. Comments. If son is aggressive with other people or animals, no other signs of violence. Yes, treats me this way in front of his mom. What they do if son attacks, we've tried different things. If I'm trying to reason with him or talk to him, she will wait to see how it goes. Super weird trying to be compassionate with someone attacking you. If she notices him coming AMD, it's not one of those moments, she will just step right in and intervene. Typically sending him to his room and talking with him, unless we've decided we've tried enough talking for the day. These days I stay out of it. AMD, let her do the discipline. I haven't given up hope, just the expectation. We'll certainly still go to the end of the earth for him. To make sure the daughter doesn't get ignored because of son, we think of her often and make sure she's safe and understand her brother needs help, and we will get it for him. About sister's reaction, she is 5. She will comfort me almost daily. Honestly, what she does when he's acting up, I'm focused on not bleeding. He was 5 when it started. At first it was just throwing things at walls, then there was a time where he just hated me but wasn't attacking me. Now it's directed at me rather than the walls. I'm not sure we are quite ready for inpatient treatment, but that's starting to enter the conversation. If I try to talk to him I will get attacked. If I exist in the same room as him for more than a few minutes he will either leave or attack me. To get son into inpatient, I think getting additional PH evaluation comes before resorting to inpatient. We've already known he has something other than ADHD, but we haven't been able to convince his psych to keep digging. We are searching for a new one. If that fails, then I think we will go to inpatient. To send son away for a day or two per week, thanks. We aren't at this stage yet, but it's not off the table. I am trying to not lose patience or exhibit any favoritism and just hope that one day one will grow out of it, or that we will get the correct diagnosis. Yes, he is fine around other men, nothing abnormal. He has played dates with other kids, nothing abnormal. I've noticed a lot of anxiety. He doesn't like to watch movies if there is anything scary at all. Disney movies are typically too much for him. I suspect he's on the spectrum and I'm concerned he has ODD, defiant disorder. I've known he wasn't neurotypical since he was about 3, but the specifics of how elude us. If they checked it physically, is everything okay with son, maybe. That's the one thing I haven't tried, but I can't imagine a brain tumor would lead only to violence against a specific person and have no other ill effects. Seems unlikely. Reply. What age did this start? Does he physically attack anyone else besides you? Commenter. Does he attack you when you are alone, when you are with family, and when you are in public? Do the two of you ever have normal interactions? Morning, midday, or night? For example, if you were driving somewhere in a car, would he literally be attacking you while you were driving? Has he seen a psychiatrist or psychologist? Reply. 5-2. Number 3. Yes, yes. Number 4. Normal interactions are very rare, it's been months. He will attack me while driving, typically throwing things at me. We've told him it's dangerous and can cause an accident, and then we did get in an accident over the summer and he stopped. The accident was the other driver's fault, not my son's. 5. Yes. Update. Hello, some of you folks asked for an update when I first posted, including some who seem to feel lost in a similar situation. I'd like to thank the insane people on my last post who told me to give up on my son. The laughs were therapeutic. And also, please never have kids of your own. We took him to get evaluated again as it was pretty clear what we were dealing with was more than just ADHD. It took us a while to find a place we thought would do it right this time, then it took some more time to get a slot, but today we got the official diagnosis. He has the ADHD, and a severe version of it, but he's also mildly autistic. On top of this, he has high anxiety and signs of depression. Some of you were suggesting pandas and ODD, and he does seem to have some of those symptoms, but like the autism, there are things about him that don't fit those diagnoses. There are things about him that aren't typical of autism. For instance, he loves being social. These inconsistencies and the fact he was younger and had severe ADHD which masked the autism made an autism diagnosis difficult at that time. So why does he hate me? As best I understand it so far, this is what happened. When he was halfway into kindergarten is when it started. His disabilities caused him to struggle as compared to his peers, which led to feelings of inadequacy. Being 5, he didn't have the tools to handle that, so he began coming home from school and destroying the house as a way to express his feelings. We would try to reason with him patiently, but he wouldn't hear it. We tried many other ways of helping him, but the house was getting destroyed, and the only thing that would get him to stop would be sharp, loud commands from my scary male voice. Stop that. So that's what I would do every time he started acting up, because that's what worked. What I was doing, though I didn't know it, was using his anxiety to scare him into behaving better. As time went on and I continued this, I became this scary figure in his life to be feared. The anxiety built, until it became a complicated hate. So where are we now? He doesn't attack me on sight, usually, which is an improvement, but when I come home from work he often wants to be alone in his room now. When we go out in public things are better, but at home the anxiety he attaches to me is still present, though not as intense. How did I fix it? First, I stayed away. I let things chill out for a few weeks, and when he would attack me, instead of getting angry and punishing him, defending myself by shoving him off me, I remained calm and had my wife correct him instead. Then, I decided I needed to talk to him about all this. I knew that going to his room meant immediate bleeding on my part, so I would armor up in a winter coat and gloves, enter his room, and calmly fend his attacks off. It would end with me restraining him on the floor and just taking to him about his behavior, and why it led to my behavior, and why I never meant to be scary but I had to be scary to stop the madness. This had a little bit of a positive effect, but it took a long time. I did this routine for weeks without much progress. He would attack me, I would restrain him, I would talk and ask him to open up, AMD he would be silent. Then I finally found something that clicked. I told him I loved him and always would, and that I thought he was a special and talented kid, and that I would always be proud of him. He cried in my arms and got angry and wanted me to stop, but I pushed through. So then for a couple weeks I kept letting him know that, and over time his reaction to it became normalized, which is how I knew he really believed and understood it. Now we have a routine I call daddy therapy time, and when I come in his room and say let's talk, he gets straight like a pencil on his bed and I kinda compress him into the bed, and his head hangs off, which he likes for some reason. He has been opening up gradually and actually talking instead of just me talking. Some days are still hard, he still takes everything out on me, but that's okay, better me than anyone else, that's my job. I still get bit and scratched but less often now, and I think things will continue to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. For you overwhelmed parents out there, keep trying, there's hope. Consensus. People are happy and recommend buying son a weighted blanket. Stories number 2. Aita for refusing to let my future in-laws make a speech at my wedding after they tried to talk my fiancé out of marrying me. I am getting married in a few months to my fiancé and we're both really excited. We've been together for 4 years and honestly he's my favorite person in the world. We've been through a lot like job changes, health scares, a long distance stretch, but we've always come out stronger. The only real sore spot in our relationship has been his parents. They've never been rude to my face, but they've never liked me. His mom is the passive-aggressive queen, and his dad is one of those guys who smiles at you while saying something subtly insulting like, "You must be pretty persuasive if you got our son to put up with a dog in the house." We have 2. Just constant little digs that make it clear they don't think I'm wife material. But the real issue came about 6 months ago when my fiancé told me that his parents had sat him down and tried to talk him out of marrying me. Not once but twice. Once over dinner at their house and again in a phone call. In both convos they basically said I'm too emotional, not raised like them and a mismatch for their son. His mom even said she felt I was beneath his potential. To his credit, he shut it down both times. He told them he loved me, that they were being incredibly disrespectful, and that this wedding is happening with or without their blessing. Fast forward to now, wedding planning is mostly done and we're working on the ceremony order and speeches. His parents told him they were preparing a short, heartfelt toast for the reception. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that. I don't want to give a microphone to two people who literally tried to sabotage our relationship. I feel like any heartfelt words will either be fake or somehow laced with shade. He was surprised and said he gets where I'm coming from, but that he thinks it could be a turning point for them to publicly show support and maybe even heal things. I said if they want to prove anything they can do it privately, a letter, a conversation, literally anything beforehand, but I'm not risking my wedding day becoming awkward because they decide to be petty or performative. He said he'd respect whatever I decide, but I can tell he's hurt. And now, some of our closest friends are saying I'm being too cold and that it'll just cause more tension long term. His parents are obviously offended and called me controlling. So, Aita for putting my foot down and saying no speech from the in-laws. Update, hi again. Just wanted to give a quick update now that the wedding has come and gone, and I've finally had time to breathe again. First of all, the wedding was amazing. Absolutely beautiful. My husband, still weird to say that, and I were surrounded by people who love us. The weather held up, the food slapped, and I don't think I stopped smiling for more than 5 minutes the entire night. We danced like fools. It was exactly what I hoped for. Now for the part you're all probably here for, his parents. So, after my original post, my fiancé sat down with them and let them know, firmly but politely, that we were not including them in the speech portion of the evening. He told them exactly why, that trying to sabotage our relationship and never even apologizing, disqualified them from being honored guests in that way. Apparently, they didn't take it well. His mom cried and called me divisive, and his dad accused me of ruining family traditions. They didn't back down or try to have a real conversation, so we left it at that. I honestly didn't care by that point. We had made our boundary clear. Wedding day comes, and to my surprise, they actually behaved. No snide remarks, no interruptions. They smiled for photos, clapped at the right moments, and made it through dinner without drama. I thought maybe we had gotten through to them. Then came the reception. During the open mic portion, which was meant for a couple of pre-approved friends who wrote quick, funny memories, his dad stood up, walked up to the DJ and tried to take the mic. I saw it from across the room and immediately panicked. But to my absolute relief, our DJ shut it down. He was amazing. He politely said the mic was closed and escorted him away from the stage. I later found out my best friend had warned the DJ just in case, and he had our back 100%. After that, my husband pulled his dad aside and told him that was his one and only warning. We're adults. We're married now, and if they couldn't respect our boundaries, they'd be seeing a lot less of us. Since then, they've been distant. No calls. No texts. But also no apologies. Which is honestly fine with me. I'm not going to chase people who never wanted to accept me in the first place. I married the love of my life. Our day was everything I wanted. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like we're fully on the same page as a team. So yeah. To everyone who commented on my first post and told me I wasn't being unreasonable, thank you. You gave me the push to stand my ground, and I'm glad I did. Stories number 3. Aita, still, because I grew from the divorce and became the husband-father my ex had wanted me to be, I was the I know it. My ex and I, 40s, married in college in our early 20s. We went from living in the dorms together to being married and living on our own in another state due to my job. We enjoyed the honeymoon period with each other along with being young 20-somethings in an exciting new city. Not long after being married, she was pregnant and our first child was born a few months after our first anniversary. She was a som, I picked up overtime to cover everything. She matured way faster than I to support the baby. I was still closer to being a college dorm student than I was a husband-father equal. We had constant fights how I wasn't doing enough to help or supporting her physically or emotionally. I kept trying to tell her how I was doing enough, how I worked 80 hours last week, how I changed a diaper last week, how I cooked my own meal, just for me, so she wouldn't have to, etc. She would explain her problems and how I could help her, but I didn't hear them, I just wanted to argue. I used weapon Z incompetence before that term was coined. In my mind I was working hard and she was just being unrealistic and couldn't see how much I did. In reality, there was far more work than I realized. My ex was drowning and asking for help and all I would do was argue with her about how there was no way she was drowning. Things would improve every few months, partly because I would do a little more work, partly because she just internalized her frustrations and stopped initiating conversations about them. We had another child during this time, but this soon added even more stress and the fights grew even worse. Eventually she said she couldn't handle it any longer and moved in with family a few hours away. I tried to win her back through love bombing, again, before I knew what that was, and figured she would come to her senses. And so I was extremely surprised when I got served the divorce papers. I couldn't believe it. I never cheated on her, I didn't abuse her, I had no vices, we loved each other, how could she be divorcing me? Yet she did, and when we met with lawyers I was taken off guard by how much resentment there was towards me. Where had that come from? We agreed to every other weekend visitations. The first time I had to take care of my 2 toddlers on my own for 2 whole days was an eye-opener. I had done it once or twice when married, but she had prepped everything, pre-made the meals, picked out the clothes, cleaned the house, etc. I was still learning how to consistently do the laundry and wash the dishes every day and pick up after myself. I had gone from living with my parents, to living in the dorms with roommates who constantly cleaned, to living with my ex. I knew how to take care of a house but never had to do it all on my own, someone else always picked up the slack. And now I was fully responsible for that and for 2 little lives for 48 hours. I remember being completely overwhelmed, and hit by a huge wave of empathy and understanding of where she had been over the past few years and what I had done to her. I apologized to her, but that only made her angrier, so I grew up. I vowed to make the most out of each weekend with my children. I learned how to cook, I actually liked cooking, I learned how to braid hair, I bought tons of unnecessary toddler supplies and packed them all in the stroller just in case my kids needed something on a walk, etc. On my own time I picked up new hobbies and went to the gym. I read the non-fiction, how-to relationship books that my ex had been begging me to read. Overall I worked on myself and tried to become a super dad to my kids. A couple of years after the divorce I started dating again. Being a single dad in my late 20s was a turn-off to a lot of women and I was rejected often, but I found myself being matched with other single moms and really connecting with them. I eventually met my now wife, a single mom whose ex had abandoned her for someone else and wanted nothing to do with their children. And to her, I was the perfect catch, a loving dad who worked hard, did the household chores, and was devoted to her. I learned from my mistakes in my first marriage, and took all the criticisms my ex had made about me to heart and improved from them. I became the husband my ex tried to make me into. I still slip up, and still have a lot to learn, but I do that with the support of my wife. I would still see my ex every other week and the relationship improved somewhat, but there was still an undertone of resentment in each interaction. She went back to school, got a job, and raised our kids as a single mom. I tried to get more visitation as they got older but she fought back, and due to them living too far for daily visits, I only got longer summers with them. I have no idea about her dating life, I never asked the kids about her, but she is unmarried. I know very little about her life, she could be very happy and enjoying everything. But within our few interactions very little of that shows. Now, our youngest is a senior and going to graduate and I've been talking to my ex more to prepare for it. It's mostly cordial, but occasionally hints of anger and passive-aggressive comments come out. I have thanked her for being a wonderful mother to our children and raising them, and again apologized for never being there or taking her seriously all those years ago. I still feel like the though, sometimes because of how she understandably treats me, and other times just from my own guilt of how I treated her when we were married. She is about to have an empty nest after devoting her life to children when I failed her, and I am living the suburban family life we had planned for but with someone other than her. Am I still the for learning from my divorce and becoming the husband I should have been with my ex? Notable comments. Commenter 1. It's like kids who their parents had young and were a mess, then they get it together and have much younger siblings who the parents are model parents of. If you were capable of being this amazing parent spouse, why wasn't I worthy of that? Commenter 2. When someone treats you like trash only to come back and be better for somebody else, it makes you feel horrible about yourself. Why didn't he love me? Why wasn't I enough for him to make these changes when I needed him? What's wrong with me that he could treat me so poorly but treat his current wife like a queen? I wasted my youth on someone who didn't even value it. All of those are probably feelings that she's had over the years. And seriously dude, she's still been doing the heavy lifting. When would she have time to find someone? This whole movement of men who have now started shaming single moms and making them feel like they're less than. So good on you for improving, but yeah, you're still the How would you feel if your current wife did this to you? Would you feel valued or worthy of love? Commenter 3. I have a question that you may not have considered. Your ex moved to be with family, to get support that she didn't have. While you were making all these great changes, why did you not try to move closer to your children? Realize that you were a twice-a-month dad who got to have free time and date. She did not, and you effectively chose dating and subsequently a new wife and kids over being closer to your children to get more custody that you were supposedly fighting for. Commenter 4. What do you want from her exactly? She's polite, you cope a rent just fine. Do you want her to say she forgives you for wasting her life, so you can stop feeling guilty? Because I wouldn't hold out for that. Commenter 5. Well, it looks a lot like you were the dad your kids needed to somebody else's child. Can't you see how that would sting? Update. Thank you for those who continue to reach out for updates. While nothing has changed from my previous post's original question, I will always be the AH in my ex's eyes. I will have guilt for that for life, will continue to try to make amends with her, and will try to do better with my wife and kids. There was an event that brought a little closure recently. My youngest child, now 18, with my ex graduates this month. My ex held a party for them at her house which was attended by immediate family and friends from both sides. It was the first time many members of our respective families had been together since our wedding 20+ years ago. We hosted separate parties for our oldest child's graduation 2 years ago. Overall, the party went very well. Our daughter was celebrated and felt appreciated. She said it felt a little weird to have her two worlds collide, such as when her siblings hung out with her maternal cousins, or having both sets of grandparents spending lots of time talking with each other and laughing. It brought a pang of guilt that my daughter didn't remember a time when her grandparents were close friends, as they were before her mother and I divorced. My wife and my ex spent time with each other and laughed a few times. My wife won't tell me what all they talked about, so my guess is they shared some common war stories about me. My ex and I had a chance to talk as well. We mostly talked about the kids and how proud we were of our daughter, how excited she is to move for college, and what our oldest child was up to. She asked what was next with our family and I gave updates about my younger kids and their future graduations and activities. She returned that she was excited and a little anxious about having an empty nest. Her job is mostly the same but going well and she is planning on traveling. She also casually dropped the name Mark during our conversation. Mark and I talked about doing, and I had no idea who she was talking about. Maybe he's someone she's seeing, but she didn't elaborate. I didn't pry, and the topic moved on. I suspect we each assume our kids inform the other parent about our respective life updates more than they actually do, because it didn't seem like she was trying to drop major news on me when she said it. And there was no Mark present at the party, so I really have no idea what their connection is. Near the end, I again thanked her for being a wonderful mother to our children and briefly re-apologized for my actions years ago. She replied kindly and apologized for fighting so hard against me when I requested more visitation a decade ago. Note, initially, I only saw the kids every other weekend with short summers. I pushed for more visitation after I remarried, had moved into a larger house that could fit everyone, and was in a position to take care of the kids for longer times. I asked for 50-50 but ended up with 40-60 after a bitter mediation. We returned to talking about the kids and the conversation mostly ended after that. And that seems like it. I don't see the need for other updates. I doubt I will see much of my ex. The kids now adults are both doing their own things, have their own cars, and can visit their individual parents and siblings as they wish. There are no more visitation drop-offs between my ex and I. There will probably be college graduations and maybe eventual weddings, but beyond that our interactions are mostly finished. While we both had caused each other frustration, pain, and resentment over the years after the divorce, and I will always have my guilt for failing her in our marriage, in the end we successfully raised 2 happy children who are starting their own adult lives. Each of our lives took unexpected paths to get here, but we got here nonetheless and are proud our children made it through while feeling loved. My wife and younger kids are also happy and doing well. There are tons of updates with all of them but those aren't relevant to this subreddit. I am not the AH to them, I'm just dad and husband, although sometimes they are embarrassed reluctant to admit to having those associations with me. Consensus. People still say he's an asshole. Notable comments. Commenter 1. This dude really treated the mother of his children like EXP instead of a human being, and leveled up for everyone but his family when it mattered. Unbelievable. Commenter 2. Yeah, no, you're an absolute asshole and you didn't deserve a do-over with your new wife. Your ex had to put her life on hold because of you. She didn't remarry and get a nice little happy ending do-over like you, because she was raising your kids, who you tried to take from her despite her clearly being the responsible parent that actually knew how to take care of them. You got to be the fun dad with the new wife and big house. You benefited from your disgusting behavior. That's not right. I'm not surprised your ex resented you for so long. TBH, I'm surprised she allowed you to attend a party that she planned and financed after the way you treated her. Comments. I worked in a niche industry when we divorced which did not exist where her family lived. She was not working at this time, so the only money that was being made was from my niche job which I had moved up in. I spent those first few years learning new skills to switch to a more prevalent but adjacent industry which had jobs nearer to my kids. During this time visitation was only weekends and a few weeks in summer because of how far I was. I eventually was able to move closer and by then was remarried, had a house that could fit my full family, and a work schedule I could adjust around my kids' schedules. I could support 50-50 visitation at this time, but my ex refused any change to visitation, both when I talked to her about it and finally when I went through my lawyer. She admitted now that she was still resentful at that time and that was her only reason to fight my request. She knew I made those changes to be closer to my children, and at the time didn't want to admit I was a good father to them. She may not have been a villain, but she was, by her admission, reacting out of anger and not what was best for the children. I understand why she did it, but I was doing what I thought was best for the children. And based on where we all are now, it was the right decision. Commenter: based on this comment, you should also thank your ex-wife for allowing you the freedom so your career could blossom. There was no court review because we agreed to the new schedule in mediation. After moving closer I lived about an hour away. It would not have been easy to do overnight weekday visits due to school, but it would be doable. Instead, I received more weekend visits, a longer summer, and many school holidays breaks. So not quite 50-50 for me, but it did result in less daily transition for the children. Other split families have been granted 50-50 visitation in these circumstances, but we avoided the court and came to an agreement in mediation. Neither of us were totally happy, hence, bitter, but the kids ended up better off for it. There were many other concessions given by both of us in mediation which really aren't relevant to the story. In the end, this is what we agreed upon and the kids benefited. Stories number 4. Aita for not skipping my stepson's graduation even though his mom is threatening to make a scene. I, 30F, have been married to my husband, 41M, for 5 years now. His son, 17, is graduating high school next month. I met him when he was 11. I've never tried to be his mom and we took things slow, and over the years we've built a decent relationship. I help out where I can, mostly behind the scenes like rides, school stuff, dinner when he's over. He's casually called me his bonus mom a couple of times, which I took as a good sign. However, his mom, Jan, has never liked me. She's never been openly hostile but always cold and dismissive. I've never pushed her though. No drama, no trying to parent her kid, just tried to be supportive when he's with us. Anyway, he told us he wants me at his graduation. He said it directly and saved me a ticket. A week later, my husband gets a call from the school and apparently Jan emailed them and said only she and my husband would be attending and that I shouldn't be allowed because of family issues. We had no idea she did this. My husband called the school to clear it up, and when we asked her about it, she basically said I was overstepping and that graduation is for his real family. She told someone in the family that if I show up, she might leave or worse not let her son attend. Her son still wants me there. He even told his dad, don't let her ruin it. My husband fully supports me going. But now a couple of his relatives are telling me I should just stay home to avoid drama. Guess who called them about it? I get it's a sensitive day, but I'm not there to make a statement. I just want to show up, support him, and leave quietly like everyone else. Aita for insisting on going. Stories number 5. Aita for ignoring my dad's ex-wife and skipping Mother's Day plans because she was invited. My dad and his ex-wife, Bella, divorced 2 years ago. I, 16M, was dad's only kid from before. They had 3 kids together but only 2 are living. One of my half-siblings was stillborn. Bella never adopted me, though she wanted to and I didn't, and I never called her my mom or anything, so she never got any custody or visitation with me in the divorce, and I don't have a relationship with her anymore. I didn't want one and my dad has supported my choice. But my grandmother, dad's mom, does not support it. She has encouraged me to go back to being Bella's baby because she said she loved me like a mom should and was a better mom than my mom could ever be. Some background stuff would be good here. My grandparents never liked my mom. My grandmother was worst of all. Mom was a foster kid with a rough background and she didn't have the easiest life ever. It ended up breaking up my parents when I was 4 or 5 years old. My dad admits even today that it was his biggest regret because he always loved my mom. My grandfather softened to mom after the divorce and especially after she died when I was 6. My grandmother never softened and she actually set my dad and Bella up. They got married when I was 7. And my grandmother and Bella really tried to make me warm up to Bella and start calling her mom. I know Bella did actually love me. It wasn't just to make others happy. I think she saw me as hers because she quit her job when she married dad and tried to be a stay-at-home mom. It was easier for her when my half-siblings were born because I never liked her that much. I didn't want another mom, and I still don't appreciate that she was influenced by my grandmother so much. My dad never let her adopt me, and that caused problems in their marriage. She knew my dad still loved my mom, so that was another strain. Then the fact I always kept her at a distance and didn't even warm up to her when my half-sibling was stillborn, it all got too much for he and she, and my dad divorced. I don't miss having her around. I'd say my life got better after the divorce. I no longer had to stop myself from rolling my eyes when she'd call herself my mom, and I didn't have to make myself be nice to her. She wasn't in the house and I didn't have to see her, so I didn't. She tried to get shared custody and even tried to talk to me since the divorce, but I ignore her. I blocked her number on my phone and I made my social media private so she can't see it or friend me. My grandmother hates it. She told me that Bella came from a good family and had so much more to offer than my mom ever could have, and if she was any sort of person at all, to quote my mom, my grandmother believes my mom would have wanted me to have better than her, and my grandmother has said that to my face. My dad kicked her out for saying it. Dad and I found out the Saturday before Mother's Day that my grandmother had invited Bella to the Mother's Day hangout. Dad wanted to see the kids, so he went, but I didn't, and I got a lot of shit for it. Bella was apparently really upset and felt like I could have at least accepted being around her when everyone else was there. My grandmother came over Monday afternoon when my dad was working, and she told me I should not be avoiding the woman who's been my mom for most of my life. She told me I'd regret it one day and to imagine if she died like mom did. I told her I wouldn't care. I told my grandmother I don't miss Bella and I like my life better without her in it. She was still yelling at me when Dad came home and he kicked her out. Then for most of yesterday my grandmother was giving Dad shit about my choices. Stories number 6. Aita for stopping my boyfriend's proposal at our best friend's wedding. I, F26, and my boyfriend, M25, attended a mutual friend's wedding. They're very close friends to us and brought my boyfriend and I together. My boyfriend and I are coming up on our 3-year anniversary and things were getting pretty serious. Enough so that I very much wanted to marry him. He's sweet, chatty, typically considerate and empathetic. He's the person who I thought was the first to show me what a truly healthy and compassionate relationship was like. He's very serious about us too. We've had long talks about marriage and it seemed we were in agreement with no formal declaration. We had even gotten as far as looking at rings. So the chance of a proposal was more of a when, not if. A few weeks before the wedding, us and the engaged couple at the time were hanging out. The topic of weddings was very prevalent and my boyfriend had cracked a joke about proposing at our friend's wedding. The to-be groom joked back and said that'd be funny as hell. This was followed by me and the to-be bride both shutting it down, trying to be serious but also not thinking he was serious. He was. During the reception, everyone had made their speeches and people were getting their food. While our table was waiting, my boyfriend went up to the DJ, and after, they played my boyfriend and I's favorite song to sing in the car together, Story of My Life by One Direction. I look at him, smiling, and he's looking around. All of a sudden he grabs a fork, stands up and begins clanging on a glass. Immediately the whole dining room looks over. I stand up and whisper the words, "Not right now." His face drops and he yells a mix of, "I'm sorry, I was just joking." After he sat back down I verbatim said, "Let them have their moment, let's make this our own." He wouldn't even look at me. When it was time to get our food he immediately goes toward the exit. I follow and tried to catch up to him but couldn't find him. I text him twice and call him a couple times, but got no answer, so I went back to the reception. After not hearing from him for about an hour and a half or so, he returns, sits down, and doesn't even look at me. The rest of the night was terrible. He looked like his dog just died and I'm trying to make the best out of the night, but felt like I was just in his shadow. I was prepping for a breakdown or maybe a fight in the car, but the only thing he said was, "I don't want to talk about it right now." And the drive was just quiet and awkward. He sent me a long text about how hard it was to get the ring, how he felt rejected by his closest person and that I embarrassed him. I tried to explain that it's not that I didn't want to marry him. It was our best friend's wedding and they deserve their moment. That we should create our own and not piggyback off theirs. He got offended and said that if I wanted to marry him, I wouldn't have stopped his proposal in front of everybody. This situation perplexes me. I've never seen the appeal of proposing at someone else's wedding and tried to handle the situation in a way that I felt was calm and chill. But he's very adamant that I ruined the proposal, made him look like an asshole, and thus I'm the asshole. Am I missing something? Should I admit I was wrong and have just let his proposal go at our friend's wedding? Comments. Commenter. No, you did the right thing, but I think he feels hurt because he was really excited and ready, but that was not the right time and place. They deserve to have their reception focus on themselves. They spend the money and tbh it was their once-in-a-lifetime event to be interrupted by someone's proposal would be tacky. I would talk to him though even though his heart was in the right place the context was wrong. Reply, yeah this makes a lot of sense. I mean I also got super excited when we talked about marriage. I tried not to make it seem like I was saying no, I just didn't want to be proposed to at an event tailored for someone else. Like you said, they paid for that and it's an ideally once-in-a-lifetime event. Commenter, NTA. It was bad taste for him to propose at the wedding. It would have been unfair to the bride and groom not to mention tacky. He needs to get over it and move on. Out of all the possible scenarios to propose he chose the worst options. You did the right thing by stopping him. No one knew he was going to propose so he shouldn't feel embarrassed. Reply, I did try to tell him that. Our friends, the literal hosts, weren't even that mad after I explained the situation. They just said thank you for stopping him and no one else really said anything about it. Commenter, I don't think you're the AH. You wanted to be empathetic to your friends, but I think he's just feeling a bit dejected at the moment. It's not your fault, I mean you even tried to say before how much you wouldn't have wanted that sort of proposal. ATP I say you just give yourself both some space. Not for too long though. I would wait a bit for him to come around, if he doesn't, I'd just ask if any of it is really worth the fight. Reply, tie for this. I'm itching to try and call again just to check on him, but you're right. Space here is probably needed. Commenter, can you get the friend to talk to him and explain? Maybe if someone else says the same thing he might take to it more. Reply, they did offer to call and say something to him. I told them maybe, but they're also about to go on their honeymoon. I love that they care about him and us, but I don't want to drag them into our drama when they should be having the time of their lives. Commenter, girl I noticed you are ignoring the comments telling you that this is a bigger red flag than you think because you want to stay positive and think the best of him, but those people are not wrong. The wording in some of these replies can seem harsh, but that's not because they are all anti-relationships or anti-men. It's because unfortunately some of us have lived long enough to see how the story ends with guys like this who in the dating phase ignore your discomfort. Do not respect your desires even after you flat said no about something important. Act like big milestones like a proposal are only about them and what they want, because everybody else they hurt by acting selfish should just get over it. Give you the silent treatment, stonewall you or blame you when you stand up for what's right. This behavior will only get worse after marriage. I know you're young, so you think you know him better than some internet rondos, but if you ignore this now you will only end up paying a bigger price later. Reply, I haven't responded to them, yes, however they aren't being taken lightly. I'm using this time to really evaluate what I want. Seeing if I notice any patterns or behaviors that align with what people are saying. His reaction here is really telling of how he may react in the future and it's something that is really bothering me. Since we've been together, we've had really communicative fights, but nothing ever this big. I do want to give him time to process and see how this is approached given some time to settle. If he doesn't reach out in the next day I'll reach out to him. Regardless of how he approaches, I do see that I'm NTA here, I do expect an apology and I do expect that he addresses what happened and not dodge. I was really hurt when he came back and ignored me for the rest of the time we were there. I wanted to dance, I wanted to have fun. He was caught up in his feelings over something no one seemed to care much over. Please know I am not ignoring out of not seeing any bigger picture. I'm hurting and analyzing. This is also almost 3 years I've committed where the only red flag to me was that he plays Yumi in League of Legends. I don't want to just toss our time and future in the trash over a very shitty timed mistake. Update post. Hi all, this is an update from a post I made 2 days ago. You can see that post here. I responded to a few comments but before proceeding with our convo, I read almost every comment hoping to gain new perspectives and see the situation I presented from a different light. After I got home from the wedding, my boyfriend and I texted back and forth. After he went to bed, I made my Reddit post because I absolutely felt like an asshole. I was second-guessing everything and thought the night would have gone better if I had just let him do his thing. After seeing the responses to my post, I'm more solidified in that I made the right decision. Yes, the night was ruined, but I'd be more comfortable with my life moving forward. I gave my boyfriend and myself a day to think about this and come back with clearer heads. That was yesterday. I took a lot of people's advice and tried to reflect on if this behavior was a grand showing of any smaller reaction. The stonewalling isn't super new. In fights at the start of our relationship, he would get quiet and make a small showing of secluding himself. I'd counter this by giving my boyfriend his space and telling him that moving forward, to just say he didn't have the words to talk about it and we can reconvene when we're ready to talk. This worked for us. It gave him time to choose his words, we'd have a good discussion of what went wrong and how we could fix it moving forward. I didn't think that he was overtly trying to make me feel worse by the silent treatment back then. However, ignoring me for the rest of our time at the wedding hurt so much. Not even saying, I just need space right now, and rejecting to hold my hand by pulling away felt like he was pseudo-counter-rejecting me. This was at first I felt like he was trying to make me feel worse through his lack of communication. That's all I noticed. I've had a partner be verbally abusive to me before and another who wasn't willing to talk about things they did wrong, refusing to take any blame. My boyfriend hasn't done any of that. I'm not saying I recognize all patterns of abuse, but I'd say I'm versed in a few. There's also been no real history of me catering to him constantly as others were asking. If either person had strong feelings one way or another in different scenarios, we'd often be fine with that person getting their way. Otherwise, if we both didn't care all that much, he loves to use a wheel-spinning website to make decisions and I think it's cute. We met earlier today. He came over and we sat in my living room. He broke down. He vehemently apologized and said he felt like an asshole. He said he had been reflecting all of yesterday and talking to his dad about the situation. His dad got mad at him and talked him off his ego crash. His words, not mine. He had already sent a message to our friends, now flying to their honeymoon in West Europe, apologizing for making their most important day about him and for not properly celebrating them. I asked why he neglected our conversation from months before. He said that the groom and their group of friends had egged him on in private since, not to propose at the wedding, but to do it soon. He didn't originally plan on doing it at the wedding. He's had the ring with him for about a month, never had any real plan, and wanted it to just be spontaneous. He told me he got caught up in the atmosphere of the wedding, saw his best friend with his girl and couldn't stop picturing us in the same scenario. His urge overran his common sense, in his terms, and he made a choice he ultimately wishes he could take back. It very much spiraled from there. I noted that while his heart was in the right place, that doesn't excuse the shitstorm he put me through after. I expressed to him that ignoring me really hurt me. That him saying my rejection to his proposal was the reason for his embarrassment and shutdown was unfair, especially since we had already established for him not to do that. He accepted this and continued to apologize, admitting it was very unfair of him and that he should have handled his emotions and embarrassment better. Especially towards me. We had a lull in our conversation after he asked, "Where do we go from here?" At this point, I didn't want to just return back to normal. A day where I expressed to him that I felt the prettiest in a long time, expected us to have enormous fun and watch our best friends have their moment to shine turned into a day where I was crying in my room reading Reddit comments about how I should break up with him. I genuinely thought I was the asshole who should have just bit the bullet and accepted a proposal in a way that I and others thought wasn't okay. I told him that if we were to move forward, he needed to seek a therapist to help him manage his emotions. Not only from this, but other signs that he may have a panic disorder. My mom works for a mental health clinic and has offered resources before. I said that I needed time to rebuild my trust in him. He understood and is going to seek mental health resources through my mom's clinic. Until then, we'll be on a week or so break with an open channel of communication. He's going to find appropriate channels to better himself, and I'm going to take myself on a mini vacation after the emotional roller coaster that was this weekend. We did talk about what each other's ideal proposal was. Something we should have talked about before the trigger was even pulled on it. I said that I didn't care for anything fancy. I just prefer it not to be public. He said that he wanted to make a grand showing of love to me and didn't care where or how. He asked if it was okay to have friends and family present or if that broke my public rule. I said that was fine and was happy with the communicative compromise. I also stated that I didn't want to be proposed to for a while so that we could let this situation rest and figure ourselves out from here. He accepted this. Something I thought was really sweet that I wanted to mention was that before he left, he said, "I do think I owe you some dancing." And so we slow danced in my living room for about a half hour until he left. A small and romantic action, probed to earn brownie points, but the conversation did reassure me that he's willing to try and be better. He recognized he was in the wrong and that a joyful day was robbed by pride and not rejection. This was about as ideal of an outcome as I'd hoped. Thank you all for taking time out of your days to reply and bring me back to earth. Thank you to those who messaged me in private to make sure I was okay or to give input. While the future is still obscure, it's a little clearer than it was a couple days ago. I have a clearer understanding now of what I want and what's healthy. Moving forward, I will do every ounce of weighing before I enter what should be the most important commitment you can make to a person you love, and I'll keep a more careful eye on his behaviors and how he may react to adverse situations. I hope the best for you all as many have for me. Thank you. Edit. Wording. Top comments. Commenter 1. Finally someone who actually talked it out as adults rather than just jumping to immediately discussing ending the relationship. I'm glad you guys made up and made proactive steps to actually mend the relationship. Commenter 2, shout to the dad for giving the BF a reality check. Commenter 3, I'm happy for you, that you stood up for yourself, communicated with him, and were able to reach an understanding. I don't tend to default to break up with him, so I'm glad the relationship might weather this storm. Stories number 7. Aita for saying my daughter can't go to her grandma's house until she apologizes for getting her hurt. I, 39F, have a daughter, 13, who has been skating since she was 6 and is doing it competitively. She trains multiple times a week, works with 2 coaches, and has a full off-ice workout program that's all designed and cleared by professionals. We've always tried to be really careful about keeping her healthy, mentally and physically, and not pushing her into things too soon. My MIL, mid-50s, used to skate when she was younger, but she had to stop when her family ran into major financial issues. She's always been really into my daughter's skating, which was sweet at first. She'd show up to events, talk about how proud she was, etc., but lately it started to feel like more than just support. She's constantly sending clips of other girls doing harder stuff and making these comments like, "You can't let her fall behind," or, "Coaches these days coddle kids." Last weekend, my daughter had a sleepover at MIL's, something we've done before. But when I picked her up Sunday, she was limping a little and acting quiet. I asked what happened, and MIL casually told me she'd landed weird doing some jump drills. Apparently MIL had her outside on their concrete patio trying to work on jumps she hasn't even started in her lessons yet. My daughter said that she didn't feel ready, but MIL told her if she wants to make it, she has to push through the fear. I was pissed and took her straight to urgent care. It's a mild sprain, thankfully, but she's missing ice time and has to rest it. I went back later to grab her things and told MIL this crossed a line. She isn't her coach, so she doesn't get to make these decisions, and the way she brushed it off just made me angrier, saying I was overreacting, that injuries happen, and that I'm holding my daughter back by being too careful. Then my SIL, early 20s, still lives with MIL, jumped in and said I'm being dramatic and trying to cut MIL out of her life when she's the only one who takes her skating seriously. I didn't even know what to say to that. After all that, I told my husband that our daughter isn't going back over there, not with me, not with him, not at all, unless MIL gives a real apology and agrees to stop treating our daughter like her second shot at a skating career. She got hurt, and even more than that, she was pressured into doing something she knew she wasn't ready for. I don't think that's something I can just overlook. My husband agrees it was out of line, but I can tell he's weird about how hard I'm drawing the line on this. He keeps suggesting that maybe I could have been gentler, or we should have tried to talk it out, or that MIL maybe didn't realize how serious this was. I think he just doesn't want to deal with the fallout. Now MIL's acting like I'm punishing her over a mistake. SIL's still cold towards me. I'm not saying I want to cut MIL off forever or I want to turn this into some long family feud. But I'm also trying to set a boundary here, and it doesn't feel like anyone else sees the problem as clearly as I do. So, am I being an AH for not allowing my daughter to be over at her house at all until she gives an apology? Stories number 8. My sister is collecting minorities like freaking Pokemon cards and it's driving me crazy. I come from an upper middle class typical white family. We got plenty of bull from our upbringing because we're a blended family, but we've managed as well as we can. My sister on the other hand, I won't list all of the arguable transgressions my sister has committed over her lifetime because no one's got over 20 years worth of time, but safe to say it hasn't been easy for anyone. Life's tough, maybe even tougher for her, but not in the way she acts like it is. In just the past few years, she has claimed to need a service dog for anxiety and that he untrained, anxiety-riddled miscreant is a service dog. She even demanded to be let into a restaurant with her service dog. I was the only one to call her out on it and everyone got mad at me and told me to let it go. Dude, it's against the law and considered fraud. She has claimed to be poor and destitute. She lived in one of the most expensive cities in the country and went to an elite university and is now in grad school. Our parents paid for most of it and yet she is delusional enough to claim that she has been independent for 10 years. But I think she might have crossed a line now, but obviously everyone is going to keep letting her bullshit her way through life. She said that she is a Jew who supports Palestine. Look, I'm not trying to make any opinions on that. It is a very politically charged topic. That's not the problem. The problem is we have zero connection to our Jewish heritage. We only found out recently through a DNA test. We were not raised Jewish, we practice no Jewish religions, we have never even met any of our extended Jewish family. She has no authority to speak as a Jew. That would be like someone who speaks Spanish acting as a Mexican person, but at least they speak the same language. I have nothing against her speaking against everything happening with Israel-Palestine. I'm disgusted by it too. But, as a Jew. Are you kidding me? She wants to be oppressed so badly that she will co-opt any group that she has the slightest connection to and then speak as an authority. I should add that she does this in every area of her life. She'll take one class on something and act like an expert. I'm losing my mind. I feel like I'm going crazy cause I'm the only one in my family that says she's full of shit. Everyone just says that she'll learn her lesson. No, she won't. Not if everyone in her life lets her live like this. Edit, I can't really talk to her right now about any of this, which is why I'm venting here. She's gotta figure her own shit out. I'm also fighting to defend her from some of these comments because despite her stuff, I love her. Family means everything to me, which is why I know that she can be so much better than this. My only defense for now is to give her a little benefit of the doubt. But I'll also give all the commenters the same. Edit 2, thanks for the comments. Helped confirm my sanity a bit. I'm gonna log off for now. I'll read the comments later today, but probably won't respond. Hope everyone has a great day. Stories number 9. Aita for calling it quits after my friend gave my dress to someone else. I, 30F, had a best friend, Anna, 28F, for over 7 years. When I got married, my mom even bought her bridesmaid dress. But over time, Anna's behavior became hard to ignore. She was always late to events, often showing up hours late and acting like it was no big deal. She'd also never contribute to potlucks or pay her fair share at lunches or activities. She treated our mutual friend, Lily, poorly. Even though Lily invited her to her wedding in Hens, Anna never returned the favor for her own wedding. She bragged about how amazing hers was going to be, without inviting Lily, and when Lily's husband had a serious accident, Anna refused to reach out, saying it wasn't her responsibility because Lily hadn't told her directly. Anna also flaked on Lily's Hens weekend, promising to come and then bailing last minute, despite knowing she was never going to attend, leaving others to cover her $350 share of Airbnb, cruise, food, and decorations. When I asked her why she didn't just say so, she claimed that all the other girls at the Hens nights were awful anyways and could afford it. For Anna's wedding, I was supposed to be a bridesmaid. I bought a non-refundable dress with her, even though I was financially struggling, which I was very open about. A few weeks later, she said the other bridesmaids had picked different dresses, and mine wouldn't work anymore. I offered to buy a new one but needed her guidance, which she refused to give as I should just work it out. When I suggested reusing the dress my mom had bought her for my wedding, same size, color, length, she claimed she couldn't find it anymore. Eventually, I pulled out of the wedding due to financial stress and moving 4 hours away, so couldn't assist with all bridesmaid activities. When I told Anna, she asked if I was still being dramatic about the dress. I still attended her wedding as a guest, but when I saw her maid of honor wearing the exact dress my mom had bought Anna, the one she claimed she couldn't find, I was done. I held my tongue at the wedding, but when I tried to bring the subject up afterwards, she dismissed me. Some of my friends have said I knew she was always like this, so I should just accept it and move on. And others have said it was about time I woke up to her antics. So, Aita for giving up on a long-term friendship. Stories number 10. My former doctor intentionally misdiagnosed me. You don't believe me, do you? What if I told you it happened twice and I nearly died? This is the most painful story of my life, the one I'm encouraged to write a book about, the one I am still in partial denial over, and the one that sent me to the ER over 50 times in 18 months. And it all started with an incorrect MRI interpretation gone far past the point of wrong. As a bit of a backstory, I started having severe, debilitating migraines in summer 2021 after my second round of COVID. By the time I first saw this doctor, I had already trialed and failed multiple treatments medications. He ordered an MRI. It came back normal, but he diagnosed me with a rare condition called a CSF leak. I scheduled surgery, unaware that this wasn't true. I didn't have a leak. I only became worse after surgery. He actually admitted there wasn't a leak by that point, and my pain was repeatedly ignored and diminished, because I wasn't giving birth. The doctor ordered an angiogram. It was normal, but he diagnosed me again with intracranial hypertension, and prescribed blood thinners. I became so sick I couldn't get out of bed, eat, or even properly use the bathroom. I never knew pain like this even existed. In between all of this, I began to go to the ER. Before that, I had never experienced such rude and sexist comments in my life, how I was being dramatic, or how I was a drug seeker, etc. The female medical staff was much kinder to me than the male doctors. I would eventually learn the truth, that I had been misdiagnosed twice and severely injured as a result. I also learned I'm not the first this doctor has hurt. He knew he was misdiagnosing me and did it anyway. I know how crazy that probably sounds. I learned via medical records he never thought I would get a hold of, as he blatantly refused to let me read them. I haven't been the same since that surgery. It's like a part of my soul has died and I'm now morbid and bitter. I never had anything he diagnosed me with, and the blood thinners were slowly killing me. The point of this story is to advocate for yourself as a patient for anything you might be struggling with. It could save your life. I hope no one here ever has experienced something similar. Edit, I'm not diminishing childbirth. For heaven's sake, the doctor said this to me and that's why I included it. Please, to anyone who is offended by that part, please calm down. I know childbirth is awful. That's why I'm not having kids. Update. First, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you who offered support, advice, and to those who have shared their stories and have experienced similar things or dealt with doctors minimizing your pain. I am truly, deeply sorry. This community is so amazing, and I couldn't be more appreciative of everyone here. I wanted to give an update on this because it's something that still weighs on me every single day. I have some positive news. I believe I have finally found the right attorney. She will not only help me, but she wants to look into having my former doctor's license revoked through the state medical board. I have heard more and more about how this doctor does this to other patients. I've even spoken to a few of them and feel so awful knowing they too have suffered at the hands of a man wanting to be like Dr. Death. For a bit of bittersweet news, I recently did a test and learned how bad the nerve damage is. I am looking at having nerve decompression surgery in the head skull brain to help alleviate symptoms. It's not too invasive, but it's a hard few weeks of recovery in a hospital and I have a lot of allergies to medications, but I am hoping for the best. Thank you so much to everyone here, y'all are wonderful. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Wow. I'm so sorry this happened to you. I hope you can heal from this in time, in all ways possible. Can I ask what your actual diagnosis is versus what he tried to pin on you? I understand if it's too personal to share. Reply. Thank you. I was misdiagnosed with a CSF leak and intracranial hypertension, both of which were wildly incorrect, and then he put me on a blood thinner that's pretty similar to warfarin and it gave me vacuities. My correct diagnosis is very complex, and one condition is directly from the blood thinners. And, to another commenter worth a similar question. Goodness. I am so sorry you have them too. My scans all came back clean, but I was diagnosed with a CSF leak and intracranial hypertension when I actually have cluster headaches, hemiplegic migraines, and occipital neuralgia. I've done nerve blocks and love them so much. I've done electrostimulation devices, ketamine therapy, lifestyle changes, not enough, it's tough, and some diet changes including cutting out caffeine, which isn't fun. I have received so much help from kind internet strangers, and it's been so nice to meet others. Commenter 2. I don't get the part about the medical records. Did he like add incriminating comments to your file or something? Reply. I'm happy to answer this. My former doctor put the correct diagnosis on my records but told me something completely different and then refused to send the records to my new doctor because he knew that the information would be very damning. He knew he was misdiagnosing me and for whatever reason, chose to push forward with it. Commenter 3. Medical records. In the US, no medical provider may withhold them when asked by the patient or their authorized representatives. Reply. Yeah, he's been cited for some HIPAA violations as a result. I was very confused as to why he refused, as all services rendered, even the ones I didn't need, had been paid for. My story might sound fake, and I truly wish it was. There are still a lot of components that don't make sense, even to me. Commenter 4. Doesn't sound fake to me. I had a dentist fake 9 cavities, and charged to fill them. She'd been doing that to patients for months as she collected funds for her planned secret escape to another state. Seriously. One day, she just left her practice, selling it to a newly graduated pair of dentists who couldn't even figure out how to take a mouth impression. Turns out she was planning to flee her life and Scientology. And she did. Update 2. I caught wind to my original post and first update being posted to another sub. I truly wasn't expecting that. Most of the comments were very supportive, but I want to address some of the issues that were brought up. My story isn't fake. It never was fake. It never will be fake. I wish it was. This story was not fabricated due to my alleged hatred of men, as a few individuals commented. I don't hate men. I do hate some of their behaviors, but I would fully hope someone to call me out if I acted that way. It's a mutual feeling. I wouldn't expect someone to put up with me acting like an ass. One of the things that was brought up was my medical records and my diagnoses. I'll try to be as concise as possible. My medical records have damning information. 2 of my correct diagnoses are recorded on these records. However, the verbal diagnoses, and treatment plans via paper and verbally, were completely different. I was treated for issues I did not have. Yes, I do know that blood thinners do not treat intracranial hypertension, it's usually Diamox, but the blood thinners are what I was prescribed. In other words, my former doctor knew he was misdiagnosing me. He was fully aware. He is not stupid. He is likely a narcissist. I developed hemiplegia with migraines at the beginning of this year. I do not know why. And I may never know. The cluster headaches too, I do not know what caused them. There is ambiguity in some of this information because it is still ongoing. There is still more to be uncovered. I am heavily considering nerve decompression surgery, or even removal of the occipital nerves. I found stories of other patients, both men and women, as a few individuals assumed that I was only recounting stories from women, online, and even through Reddit. These stories will not be involved in my lawsuit. I found them to see if there was a pattern of negligence on my former doctor's part, and this proved to be correct. This doctor has harmed both men and women. I do not believe he was only harming women. Finally, onto the small update. The case is underway. It is very unlikely to go to trial. I have too much on him for any sort of major defense. I'm hopeful, but this entire thing is so emotional for me. It's hurtful to know people assume I am lying about my story, but it's Reddit. These people don't know me, and I'm not going to spend hours upon hours trying to convince strangers of my truth. They weren't there. Thank you to everyone who has offered kindness and support. I really appreciate it. I will update one final time when my case is settled. Until then, I'm just trying to heal psychologically and physically. New updates. Hi everyone, I just wanted to share this without it becoming a long wall of text. I was admitted to the hospital last night after what I believe to be a 7-day and counting migraine. It took me making a scene and probably coming off as a bit ridiculous to have anyone take me seriously enough. Usually when I visit the emergency room, I get strange looks and oftentimes hurtful comments. Maybe it's because migraines are invisible to most onlookers, but I digress. After what turned into a 24-hour-long visit with multiple doctors, imaging, rounds of Toradol infusions, and even lidocaine injections to the skull, I spoke with a migraine specialist. This is a first for me. Until today, I had never met someone who specializes in them. The discussion was long, but for the first time in what feels like years, I was heard. My former doctor caused a nerve disorder, something that is rare, and if left untreated, can become excruciating. I have scar tissue running along my occipital nerves, and am now going to undergo a specialized surgery that few doctors recommend, and even fewer perform. The healing time from the procedure is 3 years. I will be 27 years old by that time, having spent a total of 6 years trying to understand and identify what my former doctor truly caused. This post is not intended to paint me as a victim. It stands again as a cautionary note to anyone, especially women. If something seems wrong with a medical treatment plan put in place for you, always seek other opinions. Don't end up in the same position I am in. I will experience complications the rest of my life because I believed someone who deliberately hurts his patients for money and for control. Final update, my former doctor intentionally misdiagnosed me. To everyone who sent kind messages throughout my storyline updates, and to everyone who commented advice, similar experiences, and words of encouragement alongside words of sorrow, thank you from the bottom of my heart. This community is truly wonderful and I am so grateful for everyone here. I didn't think I would be posting an update like this so soon. I wish I could say this update is positive, but unfortunately it isn't. I'll start off by confirming that everything I have said about this doctor is true. My story is true, backed up by 10+ inches of concrete, concise evidence. The other testimonies about him are true. The fact that others have been harmed by this doctor is horrifying. I cannot tell you all how many times I've broken down sobbing because someone else reached out to me with a story like mine. The attorney I believed was in the process of helping me, he lied to me too. I suspect he knows this doctor, and is perhaps friends with him. I believe this doctor is paying people off to avoid legal consequences. I have never been told I didn't have a case, but no one has been willing to initiate a lawsuit towards this single doctor. Other doctors face lawsuits that I can find through public records. Not this one. Not once have I found anything, other than review after review detailing the horrors this man has inflicted on others. It started in late 2020, with a woman who likely tried to sue and was denied justice. She was left with brain damage, and underwent specialized brain recovery treatments as a consequence of this man. The reviews are still stacking upon each other. Some are so frightening, I again start crying. My diagnosis is final, 3 years after the surgery that nearly killed me. I still have residual effects from the blood thinners I was lied to about and ordered to take. I have nightmares depicting this man chaining me to an operating table to finish the job he started. I cannot visit a doctor's office without a panic attack. I visited the ER over 70 times as a result of the damage. My veins are shot, unable to give blood without collapsing, stubborn during 4 treatments that burn when pushed into the line. I no longer fear needles, but the pokes are becoming more and more painful, scar tissue clouding the veins to protect them. There are days where all I do is ruminate and cry. The pain I will experience forever will serve as a reminder that I may never truly be free from the lies I was told, the 30+ medications I tried and failed, the weight gain I experienced from all the steroids and increased hunger. I will be taking a break from Reddit. I was approved for disability, and need time to reflect and to heal emotionally. The scars will always remain. This upcoming surgery scares me, but I have hope, even when I shouldn't. This doctor still practices, still harms. Justice is a thing rarely seen in today's world, but I am far from finished. I will not stop until this man is out of practice. My anger towards him is far too strong for me to give up. I will find a way to make it happen. For myself, and for everyone else he has harmed. I'm not done fighting. Thank you all for your help and support. Stories number 11. Aita for still not letting my girlfriend know that my family is wealthy. Hi, I, 26M, have been dating, let's say Emma, 25F, for 3 months now. Things are great between us, but she has no idea my family is very wealthy. My family's business is agriculture, and I don't want to mention any name due to privacy reasons, but let's say they're one of the biggest companies in the States. I grew up with money, private school, nice vacations and all that stuff, but my parents raised me to value hard work. I have a normal dev job and live completely off my own salary. Emma knows I'm doing okay financially since I bought a Toyota last month with my own savings and some extra from freelancing some projects after work. The issue is I've been making excuses about why she can't meet my parents or see their mansion. I keep finding excuses on why we can't meet them yet. They're busy with work, traveling and so on. I'm not ashamed of her at all. I just really like how things are between us, like she likes me for me. I've had past girlfriends suddenly get very interested once they found out about my family's money, and it was awful. Aita for keeping this secret. Is 3 months too soon to worry about gold diggers? Should I just tell her since it's been 3 months? Stories number 12. Wibta if I tell my friend to stop with her coping mechanism. I'm on a throwaway account because my friend group absolutely knows my main Reddit and I don't want them finding this and making the situation worse. So I am trans, but I come from a culture where being trans is dangerous. For my safety I immigrated to a much more welcoming country when I was 22. I changed my name and began going on estrogen. I am much happier as when I meet people for the first time they assume I am a cis female. I have a small group of friends that I made 3 years ago. One of these friends has a rather interesting hobby. She enjoys going on social media apps and basically learning everything she can about a person. I'm not really sure why she does this, as it seems very weird to me, but she basically told me that she does it because of the trauma she has from her high school friends who basically bullied her into think she forgot important info about them. Ever since then she goes on social media or even listens to gossips about almost everyone that she knows just so she never misses a thing. I don't really understand it, but as someone with trauma myself I understand that we handle things differently than what's normal. I haven't told my friends that I am trans. I understand that it seems wrong, but I just generally don't trust people with that kind of information. It's not that I don't think they will be supportive, I just don't think that they need to know this. That, and I'm a little afraid of our dynamic changing as I love them a lot and can't stand to lose any more loved ones. I know that if it comes to a point where it's needed, I will tell them. But right now it's not important information. So this friend, Amelia, fake name, was acting really weird around me. It felt like she was bringing up or talking about similar things that I haven't told anyone about. Not directly, but she'll say things like I heard about this place called restaurant that I went to when I was younger, the food seems interesting there. I thought I was just going crazy at first, as the internet is free and she is allowed to see things from my hometown without it being linked to me. That is until yesterday she was talking our friends about baby names as she is pregnant and brought up my freaking dead name. We made eye contact for a bit as my friends gushed on how cute it sounded, but all agreed it doesn't really fit her ethnicity. She moved on and never brought it up again. I don't feel anything towards that name, nor do I feel like she isn't allowed to name her baby after it if she so desires to, but it feels like a twisted form of power play. I'm not sure how she found it, but I don't think she'll use it against me nor out me, as she's not that type of person. I feel like maybe she's just trying to hint that she knows. Right now I just want to call her out on what she's doing and tell her that she needs to stop, as it's making me uncomfortable. But again, I'm not sure if this is the right move, as it is her coping mechanism for her trauma. Comments. Commenter, NTA, just keep ignoring this person. She is not a friend. And I call bull on her trauma. That is her excuse other than just being a nosy Nelly. If the trauma were true, she would not be doing the same thing. Your identity is no one's business but yours to disclose if you choose to do so, in your own way and to whom you would choose to do so. I don't think confronting this person is the way to do it. Reply, you're probably right, honestly. I'm just worried I might overstep and lose everything, as they have been friends with each other longer than they have been with me. I responds to a commenter. I don't think it will affect my friendships with them, but it's a feeling that's hard to explain. I don't want them to know because I want to seem like a normal girl, if that makes sense. I'm worried that by telling them everything will change. Commenter, NTA, that's so invasive and rude and gaslight. Why that I wonder who the bully in her HS friendships was really. If she found out you had a dead sibling, would she drop weird random hints about that, too? Take away this being about your transition, and apply her behavior to any other sensitive topic someone wouldn't want casually hinted at in a public setting, and it should be easy to see how inappropriate and cruel she is being. Reply, that actually helped a lot, thank you. Commenter, are you sure she found something? Or did you maybe just react weird because she hit on a specific name? Is it a common name in your culture that she could have randomly come up with? Or rare enough that she must know? Reply, it's not a very common name in my culture, and I moved to a more Western country where unless I told her or again she found it nobody would know it. It's hard to explain without directly outing myself on the internet. Commenter, NTA for being uncomfortable, but telling other people what to do is a losing game. You can set boundaries by pruning your social media, either by restricting this person's access or by removing anything you don't want people to see. I know the cat may already be out of the bag in this case, but it's still worth doing for the future. I'd also consider whether you want to be friends with this person. I'm not sure how compatible y'all are as friends, given your desire for privacy versus her cyber sleuthing habit. Reply, I don't really have much on my social media, mostly because I'm not a poster, so I really don't know how she found it, as even my last name is different from my family's. Update post. First of all, wow, I just want to thank everybody for the nice comments and messages that were really sent to me. I'll be honest, the last 3 to 4 months have been so difficult for me, and the kind words I received really helped. On to the updates. Amelia gave birth to a healthy baby boy, and no, she did not name him after my dead name. I don't think I would have cared anyway because 1. Like I said, I don't feel any attachment or trauma with that name, and 2. It's her loss if she names her son that because she is white as snow and I am an Arab. Regardless, I still felt happy for her and celebrated her son because she was still my friend. Second, there's a trend on TikTok or Instagram where a person A will record person B and film their reaction to hearing the sentence, "I'm so hungry I could eat," name. For those who might not know, the name that they will say tends to be the name of a person that person B has a strong past with, like an ex or a dead friend or something. Me and my friend group went over to my best friend's house for a girls' night to spend time with Amelia since she's been busy with her son. They did TikTok trend, and since I don't really frequent social media nor post myself, I mostly watched and chit-chat with my other friends who also weren't super into trends. We were having fun till Amelia pointed the phone at me and said, "Hey, my name, I'm so hungry I could eat, father's name." I was beyond shocked. My dead name has no meaning to me but my father's. Like a knife twisted into me. Hearing his name made me panic. I guess my other friends noticed and told Amelia to stop and delete the video. I basically dissociated during the argument, but from what my friends told me after was that Amelia claimed it was just a joke and a trend that people do. She then went on to claim I was in the wrong and ousted me to my friends, who luckily didn't care, like they were accepting as I hoped. She basically got kicked out of the house after a long screaming match, and my friends told me she wasn't welcome in the friend group anymore after what she had done to me. I felt awful about this, as she was friends with them longer than I was and felt like I was running things. They assured me I didn't and they accepted me. I apologized for not telling them sooner and they understood that it was my secret to tell. Amelia did end up posting the video and vague posted about me and the rest of the group. It got taken down after my best friend confronted her, forced her to and delete the videos, but the damage was already done and a lot more people knew. But on the brighter side, I never really got questioned by those mutual friends of Amelia, so that's good. After that we never really heard or paid any attention to her again. I finally started therapy and my therapist was the one who suggested to update you all, as some form of closure, she said. So once again, thank you Reddit for all the kind words and messages, and hopefully nothing else this bad happens again. Some of comments. Commenter, oh man, she sucks. I am very glad to hear that your friend group chose you and defended you. And for what it's worth, I've seen people doing that trend but never using someone the person has a traumatic past with, just someone they haven't spoken to in a while, like an old friend or former colleague. Reply, I don't know if she knew about what he did or if it was just a name that she found. I don't really want to ask either. Commenter, Amelia is so nasty. Outing someone because you're pissed at them for being hurt by something you did to them. Psycho, I also hope you told your friends that the baby name she mentioned was your dead name. Reply, I did not, because I rather not have people try to use it against me even if I know they won't, and anyway I'm sure they figured it out. Stories number 13. Discovered an off button for downstairs neighbor. I have to get this off my chest cause I feel a bit bad about it, but it's worked so well I don't want to stop. I live on the second floor and so far all of my neighbors have been awesome, and I've even made some friends. A few weeks ago my sweet elderly downstairs neighbors moved out and a few days ago someone new moved in. I work long hours and I haven't met them in person yet, but I have felt their presence in base so powerful it shakes my floorboards and walls. It reminds me of when I stayed in a hotel room above a bar. It's a lot. I figured it was useless trying to talk to them because good neighbors don't introduce themselves to you with bass so loud it gives you a migraine, and I don't like cops or landlords, so I'm not calling them. On day 2 of living on the planet of bass, I thought of an idea. The unit below me has the same floor plan as my unit, even down to where the fan is placed. When my neighbor starts playing music I stand directly above their fan, focus all my body weight into my big toe and tap the floor to the beat of the music. I'm a heavy woman, and my 200 pounds of body weight focused directly on his fan makes the fan shake to the beat of the music. Once his fan shakes enough he stops the music and I stop tapping, he'll start his music again, and I'll tap again, and we'll repeat the pattern for about 3 to 5 minutes until the music stops altogether. I've heard his confusion and upset about his music shaking his fan. He's complained on the phone about how upset he is he can't listen to his music cause it causes his fan to rock, and he's scared his fan will fall out of the ceiling because it makes an awful noise, my toe tapping. Every time the music is too loud for me I just tap until it stops, and my neighbor gets confused and turns his music down or off. I don't care if he plays music at a lower volume, or if he plays it loud while I'm not home, but I love my off button when I need the music to stop. Stories number 14. Aita for not properly telling my acquaintance that the dish they ordered would be stinky. Recently I went out with a friend, A, and an acquaintance, A's friend who we'll call B, to eat Korean food. While my A and I are both Australians and B is from Ireland, I am half Korean ethnically, and a part of the reason why we were eating Korean was because my friend was curious and wanted me to give some recommendations for what he and B could try lol. I suppose that this was mentioned to be because while I was driving them to the restaurant he asked me when I had moved from Korea among other things, and when I explained to him that I grew up here and only had Korean heritage he made a comment about how I wasn't really Korean then and asked if I even knew anything about Korea. Since I was focused on driving I just said something about how I'd grown up with the culture but I didn't really focus on it at the time. Anyways, when we arrived at the restaurant and read the menu I tried my best to give them some pointers and explain some Korean cultural stuff as well, like why our chopsticks are metal, but eventually be settled on a dish called cheonggukjang, which if you don't know is this soybean stew which is really stinky. Like, even my grandmother refuses to make it because she can't handle the stench. When I warned B that the smell might be too overpowering he asked if I had even eaten the dish before, so I explained that although I hadn't eaten it personally the stew was pretty notorious for its stench and that I wouldn't recommend it, especially for a Westerner like B. I guess the last part might have come off as pretentious. Because B made a comment about how I should stop acting Korean and that he could handle it. I figured he wouldn't listen so I was just like, don't say I didn't warn you, and shifted the conversation. Unsurprisingly, at least for me, he couldn't eat it at all and had to send it back and order something else. I won't lie I was a bit amused but I was also trying to avoid the stench lol so I didn't say anything and tried to be polite for the rest of our meal. The mood was pretty much spoiled though, and when we finished he said that he wanted to take the bus with A instead of being driven home by me and we parted ways. After I got back home A told me that although B was a bit of an arsehole I should have been more assertive when explaining to B that he wouldn't like it, and that he might have thought I was egging him on. Also, apparently B is pissed off because he thinks that I was trying to bait him into eating cheonggukjang and made him waste money at it, and that I was being petty after his comment about me not really being Korean. So should I have tried harder to dissuade B from ordering the dish? Stories number 15. Wife's grandfather found this 2,000-year-old seed bag just sitting on a Missouri Ozarks hill, still filled with ancient seeds. Found around Roaring River State Park, SWMO, area, at the top of a hill, sitting out on the surface of the ground where it had presumably been exposed to the elements for centuries, but it still seems pristine. Not even a stain on it. The bag is not brittle at all, and the material is still extremely strong, though we didn't dare stress test it. While it defaults to the wrinkled position pictured, it can be opened and closed and is very pliable, though out of caution we haven't wanted to handle it for much more than a few photos. There's at least 2 types of seed in it, probably several hundred seeds altogether. Best we can tell, the only other known to exist is at the University of Arkansas, called the Eden's Bluff seed bag. The 2 bags were found roughly 50 miles apart. We have been in contact with the UA and have promised to bring it down at our earliest opportunity. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. As an avid gardener, I want to know what kinds of seeds were in there. Reply. The seeds in the Eden Bluff bag are black, don't look anything like most of the off-white seeds in this bag. Most look a bit like pumpkin or squash seeds. Wife's a lifelong gardener and we've definitely had the compulsion to plant one, but it would be kind of irresponsible without knowing a thing about any of it. Commenter 2. Listen, I'm not knocking you for this, but I will believe this once it's been through the university. Exposed natural fiber doesn't last. There is very specific conditions for something like this to survive, and sitting on a hill isn't it. Also cedar isn't the best to make a bag with. Indian hemp is way more likely. Or even yucca possibly. I'm sorry but this does not seem like it is anywhere near what you think it is. Reply. The note was layman speculation from her grandfather decades ago, the fiber could be anything. Also another, very similar bag survived to be carbon dated not far from this one. Since we don't know the exact circumstances of this bag's finding, we can't assume it was sitting exposed for that long. But I'm no expert, what do I know? Update. This is an update to my previous post about an ancient seed bag that was found in the Missouri Ozarks which my wife inherited. Thanks for waiting, we had to get everyone's permission to use their name and photos. Our hunt for answers uncovered new details, artifacts, and some fascinating answers from the bright team at the University of Arkansas Museum in Fayetteville, spearheaded by Dr. Mary Suter, curator. So it's going to be long TLDR at the end. First, I steered you guys wrong on a couple important details in my first post, which caused a lot of understandable skepticism. Sorry, that's on me. Bear in mind it was found 6+ decades ago. So I'll try to clarify who were when and other details below. This weekend we met with family in SWMO to clean up MIL's tornado damage, and had interacted with the museum months ago about bringing in the bag when we were close. So we took the opportunity to get as many details from any family member who might know anything and make the trip to Bentonville who found it. The bag was found by two men named Jerry Weber and Andy Jewell. Andy spent many years as a surveyor for the railroad, and as a longtime farmer, he spent a lot of his life in the nature he loved. I never knew him, but he left a pretty grand legacy. He died in the early 2000s, so a lot of what could be known about his discovery is lost when it was found. In the mid-1960s. The bag sat in a glass jar for 65 years. Where it was found, a lot of people took issue with my saying the bag was found exposed to the elements, totally understandable, but I was just misinformed. Sorry again. My MIL didn't know what she talking about, but her brother did. And I couldn't edit the post. The bag was actually found in a bluff shelf, like the small caves on side of a hill or cliff. We also learned he found some stone tools at the site. And then, we actually found all of the Native American arrowheads and tools Andy had probably ever discovered in a plastic bag in the bottom of a chest. About 7 total. Which is awesome, and did end up telling us something, but being mixed together meant we couldn't possibly determine which may have been collected from the seed bag site. The site of the find was most likely Berry County, just north of Roaring River State Park. Andy had lived in a place called Dry Hollow, between Cassville and Seligman. The seed bag may not have been found exactly there. It could have been found around Washburn Prairie immediately west. We were told secondhand it was at a bluff that had at least partially collapsed at some point in recent history, geologically speaking. I doubt we'll be able to pinpoint it much more because all parties who were directly involved are dead. Her uncle offered to lead people to where he thinks it was, but he would have been like 12 at the time, so nobody hold your breath. On to the museum. So now with more solid details and more artifacts, we headed to meet the museum. TBH, we had no idea what to expect. We'd only sent photos to the museum via email and they wanted us to bring it. Would we be wasting their time? Would they care about such a thing? Do they get this sort of stuff all the time? They were standing at the door eagerly waiting for us, and upon laying eyes on the bag, we were surprised to find the atmosphere was almost immediately a combination of awe and reverence. The University of Arkansas Museum does not have a facility that is open to the public, like curations you can walk around and see. Instead, the space features a large, sterile, controlled area they called collection storage, which was carefully stocked with shelves of curiosities, antiquities and much archaeological research and artifacts. After some talk on the finding of the bag, Dr. Suter carefully placed a pad and laid out the bag, loose seeds and stone tools. After a brief inspection, she found a tattered old copy of a book called Prehistoric Plies, maybe 150 pages, that was a reference analysis made by the museum for every cordage, netting, basketry and fabric from Ozark Bluff shelters that they'd found. It was the perfect book for this. She studied page after page and then in one page turn, her eyes lit up and everyone almost immediately locked onto a bag that seemed to have incredibly similar features. About this time, I guess word of what we brought in had gotten around and some of the staff came literally running into the room to see the bag, which quickly accumulated a small crowd of very excited curators. My wife and I were curious by this reaction, and really didn't know what to make of the attention. When Mel Zabecki of the Arkansas Archaeological Survey said, "This is the nicest thing I've ever seen come in," we exchanged a look like, "Is this for real?" As it turned out, no, nobody ever brings in something like this. One archaeologist there had actually participated in a dig on a bluff nearby Andy's old place. He was kind enough to print out pictures for us, which I've included to give you an idea of the environment where it was found. He told us they called them bluff shelters, and a number had been found in the area, often around creeks and rivers. There was a nervous chuckle of light disbelief among the researchers when my wife mentioned that she took it to second grade show and tell, for Native American Month, of course, the only time anyone was ever allowed to move the mystery bag in the glass jar in the back of the hutch. This is also where and when those notes were written, for the benefit of the class. Dr. Suter, noticing the notes had sentimental value, kindly and carefully stitched one back together again with tape and gave them both a protective flat for us for safekeeping. How old is the bag? It is ancient. The UFA have suggested that the preferred word now is pre-contact, with Europeans, as opposed to prehistoric, which can cause confusion with dinosaurs and much earlier eras. The bag is firmly pre-contact. All of the following is speculation from the research team, and not cold fact. It is safe to say the bag would be no less than 500 years old, and is most likely much, much older. The reasons they told us were as follows. Because bluff shelters were used during a specific time period, long before Europeans made contact with Native Americans, and had not been in popular use by the native population for many many years, as they had developed more efficient methods of storage and cultivation. The age and style of other bags found in the same area. Carbon dating. Carbon dating the bag will take time. As it is a Native American artifact, there is a process of interaction and collaboration between the museum and the Osage tribe that must take place first. Then the process of carbon dating involves sending off a sample to another university, so that itself could take weeks. All this is way out of our scope. So we have left the bag and its research in the incredibly skilled and capable hands of the University of Arkansas Museum, the Arkansas Archaeological Survey, and the Osage tribe. Is the bag rare? Extremely. Before this, they have only ever found 2 bags with seeds in them, Eden Bluff, and a decayed bag with a small amount of acorns, which we also got to see. As many Redditors pointed out, fiber and seed are obviously very perishable, so it is almost impossible for both bags and seeds like this to survive to the modern era. It is a one-of-a-kind specimen. The seeds and stone tools. Some of the staff quickly began taking photos of the seeds and stone tools, and texted colleagues and counterparts, who offered some fast initial analysis. The seeds. The small blackish seed stumped everyone, at least then, but it was generally quickly agreed upon that all the seeds were extremely old, not viable to plant. Sorry gardeners, we tried. The stone tools. Archaeologist Jared Pebworth, an expert on ancient stone tools among other things, almost immediately determined our 7 stone tools and arrowheads came from 2 sets of times. Middle Archaic period, 2000 to 5000 BC, about 4000 years to 7000 years ago. The Woodland period from 1000 BC to 1000 AD, about 1000 to 2000 years ago. I have no idea how this was done, but it was impressive. It is only marginally helpful in dating the bag though, since we cannot know which, if any, were found with the bag. Comparing the seed bag to a previous discovery. Now pretty confident that the bag in the book was comparable, Dr. Suter lead us back into the depths of collection storage to take a look at the real thing. We walked through a vast, fascinating collection of racks filled with small, identical catalogued boxes until she found one in particular, an excavation from 1932. She opened the box top and there was a neatly organized collection of ancient artifacts, shells, bones, rope that looks like it was made last year, and a bag that was the spitting image of ours. Same weaving, coloring, stitching, etc. This bag was larger, more decayed and badly torn. It was wrapped at the top with a piece of leather. When found, all it contained was half of a very old, carefully carved pipe, which was also in the box. If we can get permission, I will share photos of the what we can later. So we asked, where was this 1932 excavation? Berry County, Missouri. Bingo. Just a few miles away from Andy's seed bag's location. Unfortunately, the 32 contents had never been carbon dated, so we weren't lucky enough to get a fast answer. Then to our amazement, Dr. Suter casually pulled out another nondescript box containing the actual Eden Bluff seed bag, in all its glory. This is the Eden Bluff seed bag we're talking about, for the curious. We couldn't believe it. The bag had sparked our imagination for years, and here it was, in the flesh, 2000 years old, looking like it was made yesterday. We just stared in wonder. It was a reverential experience. Due to certain permissions issues, the museum has requested that we not share photos of the Eden Bluff bag, though we may be able to later. There's plenty of photos on their website. The museum collection storage area. After fawning over more boxes with bags, tools, pottery and trinkets from ancient fellow Ozarks humans, Dr. Suter kindly let us basically roam the collection storage. She casually played the part of the world's greatest tour guide. We'd point at any fascination and she'd teach us the most interesting things we'd ever heard. What the calcified throat of a whole alligator fossil meant, a very early electronic music studio, the first atom accelerator, made by a later Nobel Prize winner, finding the first, dog-sized, horse in America, ancient Aztec calendars, the terrifying claw foot of a 10-foot native Arkansas raptor-like dinosaur. We spent a long time in there. Donating the bag. We made the easy decision then and there to donate the piece to the University of Arkansas in Andy Jewell's name. Or technically, to the Osage tribe, who have taken the great responsibility of being stewards of many Native American artifacts found and excavated in the area. So when artifacts like this are found, UFA often administrates these under the oversight of the tribe. It will be housed at the UFA Museum, and we've been told we can visit it whenever we'd like, which is a sweet touch. We have been concerned for years about our ability to keep such an ancient thing from deteriorating while in our care, and felt that the piece belonged to something bigger than our little finite lives, where we know it will always be properly cared for, studied and respected. Most importantly, we believe it was what Andy Jewell would have wanted. Andy was very conservation-minded and taught his granddaughter to follow practices of respect, care for the land and stewardship. Please don't touch artifacts. While this process was quite an adventure, it is also a pretty good example of why you should always leave an artifact if you find it. Instead, contact researchers who can properly exhume and document it. This bag was found decades ago and we're all glad it had a happy ending. Who knows where it would be otherwise, though by not knowing the site of the find, we may well lose the opportunity to discover even more. It could be worse. They shared many horror stories of flea market finds, farmers plowing over dig sites, kid burning up ancient artifacts, etc. All artifacts are a limited resource that is very valuable to better understanding our history and our changing world, and the Arkansas Archaeological Survey has requested we discourage people from collecting artifacts, even artifacts on the surface, even on your own private property. We've lost so much history, and even more problematic is that indigenous folks have had their history monetized, looted, abused, and destroyed. Artifacts in the hands of archaeologists can be studied by researchers for many, many decades and generations to come. End of update 2. Thanks in part to your overwhelming interest, we were inspired to find answers and better understand the mysteries of Andy Jewell's Ozark Mountain seed bag. It has been a profoundly rewarding experience and a unique once-in-a-lifetime adventure for both of us, and some of the museum staff as well, we're told. We learned so much, and it meant the world to my wife, who had been concerned quite literally her whole life about ensuring that this special bag would be given a proper home. We honestly did not dream this interaction would turn out the way it did. The University of Arkansas's archaeology program was the most perfect place in the world to bring this one-of-a-kind artifact. Not only did they have a similar bag just a few feet away, but they were so excited to study it, and so happy that we brought it with the mindset for preservation. The team of archaeologists were as endlessly hospitable as their vast knowledge. They have promised to keep us involved and appraised on all developments, and they kindly sent us home with a copy of the Prehistoric Weave book. Special thanks to Dr. Mary Suter, Dr. Mel Zabecki, Dr. Jared Pebworth, the University of Arkansas Museum, the Arkansas Archaeological Survey, and the very friendly staff at both. Thanks also to the extended Jewell family, whose individual names I won't list due to privacy requests. For anybody interested in this sort of thing, the Arkansas Archaeological Society is a cool group of people who are always looking for volunteers, even for a weekend. The photos were shared with permission. We have more photos I will share in this thread after if we receive permission on those. Once researchers have carbon dated the seeds and analyzed the bag, we'll post one more update. It might be a while. Super special shout out to who private messaged me just to insult my wife and I and call us intellectually disabled after my first post. Guess we can't be in your study. A few of y'all need to learn that being skeptical is healthy, but being insulting, cruel and rude to each other is not. Sub to whoever chatted me that you could buy this exact bag on Etsy. TLDR, the bag and seeds are ancient prehistoric pre-contact artifacts, and the Museum of Arkansas will need to go through a process with the Osage tribe before having its contents carbon dated. It was found, in the 60s, on a bluff not a hill, sorry for the confusion. I posted 15 pics. The pics. The prehistoric seed bag found by Andy Jewell in the Ozarks in Berry County, Missouri. Dr. Suter during her comparison of the ancient seed bag to another found about 90 years ago. Arrowheads and stone tools discovered by Andy Jewell. The seed bag and various stone tools being laid out for inspection, discovered by Andy Jewell in Berry County, Missouri. Inspecting the artifact. Side-by-side comparison of the seed bags. Side-by-side photos. Every box contains carefully cataloged and curated artifacts. There are dozens of these shelves. The 1932 bag. This is not where the bag was found, but a bluff excavation a few miles from that site, so you can see what the bluff shelters look like in the area. Vast archaeological findings in collection storage. One of the museum's curiosities, a full crocodile fossil from the early Jurassic period. It was in that mud 100 million years. Ancient clay head. A gift presented to General Douglas MacArthur in India. It is an ashtray made from a tiger skull. Plates. Cat tax. Frankie is an honorary architect. She's got a curious spirit and she's a heck of a digger. Relevant comments. Why it's at University Arkansas and not University Missouri. That was something that we did talk through a while back, and it was a very difficult decision to make. As lifelong Missourians, our initial reaction was to want to see this home. I've spent time at MU history and the University of Missouri would have been magnitudes easier for us personally to visit. But ultimately, the University of Arkansas is well established for research of this specific region and field, as many Ozark Bluff shelters are on the Arkansas side of the border, and they have a strong relationship with the Osage tribe who are often de facto stewards of artifacts such as this. Hopefully this allows for a good opportunity to be able to research and study the piece as part of the whole document. Still not sure if it was the right call, if there is such a thing in this case, but I am glad it's being looked after. When someone asked for a link to form saying the museum received the bag. Always good to be a healthy skeptic. I suppose here's my wife signing the donation form at the museum, with personal information redacted. We were told to expect a deed of gift in the mail in upcoming weeks. We documented everything about the meeting, even recorded the conversations for accuracy. The photos and information I posted was done so with permission from the museum, if it helps you. I'm sure if you were so inclined to call the museum they'd be quite happy to verify. It's not like there's confidentiality, and they seem eager to discuss matters of archaeology. Commenter 1. Sorry lol, I never trust the internet, but it's also part jealousy, I imagine, but still pretty cool to be a literal part of history, guys. Reply. It's a solid rule to never trust internet strangers. Happy I could help. It is very rewarding to be a very small part of this story, but the experience really helped us consider how tiny and finite we truly are. It's such an impossible connection with human beings who lived and loved and worked the exact earth we live on, and it's been here so much longer than us. No single human should own such a thing, if for no other reason than we just plain don't live long enough. What would happen if we kept it, then died? It could end up in a flea market with no context whatsoever, or lost. And for what? Bragging rights? If the bag were, say, 1,000 years old, nearly 40 generations of people would have lived their entire lives in the time between when someone made use this and when it came to us. Kind of makes the few decades it's been in the family seem really trivial by comparison. Ultimately, we are all just temporary stewards of the things we come into possession of. Act accordingly. Commenter 2. This is so great. Thank you for the updates. Will you give us another update when you learn the results of the carbon dating? Reply. Absolutely. It almost certainly will not be a quick process to the send-off. The university was also quite concerned about their ability to pay for radiocarbon dating of the bag, as grant funding has recently dried up, but we've offered to sponsor the service in the pursuit of answers. If the time comes and funding is all that is stopping them, I hope they take us up on it. Edit. We may have a way people can donate to the museum directly, we'll keep you posted. Stories number 16. My Dasher stole my $75 Mother's Day breakfast and DoorDash gave me 46 cents as compensation. I used the DoorDash Mother's Day promo to buy my mom a huge breakfast along with flowers. The Dasher dropped off my flowers, in front of my complex basically on the sidewalk BTW not even at my door that has a camera, and stole the food. It was the driver because the delivery proof only included pics of the flowers. I also called the restaurant and they said the driver picked up the food. Called the Dasher and messaged him twice. He completely ignored me. I tried to get a refund from DoorDash for non-delivery and they only gave me a 0.46-cent refund. I called them, they said they'd escalate the situation and I'll get a resolution in 15 to 20 minutes. Well, it's been 3 hours and they've ghosted me. Great job DoorDash, you ruined my Mother's Day surprise. Also, I have a great standing with DoorDash. I've been a customer for almost a decade now and have never requested a refund on anything. Sucks, this is what their customer service is like. Stories number 17. Requesting a nurse not be part of my care. I am pregnant with my second baby and my obgyn I have been seeing for 8 years decided to become an on-call delivery doctor for a hospital. She was part of an office with multiple doctors, so I was able to transfer to the only other female OBGYN at the practice. The problem is, a nurse for my new doctor is a close family friend and goes to my church, which is quite small. She attended me at my last appointment and took my baby's heartbeat. I didn't recognize her fully, but I made the connection later in the day. She met with my sister-in-law later that month and mentioned she knew the gender of my baby before any of us did, and that didn't sit quite right with me. It's my own fault for not recognizing her the first time, but whipta if I requested that another nurse would assist me during visits and possibly not have access to my file. By the way, her having access to my records would not be a deal breaker, but I do feel a bit uneasy since she unconsciously shared medical records information even if it was already known. Edit. It's been brought to my attention that there's a miscommunication on what the nurse said. The nurse did say my baby's gender, but it was after I had revealed the gender to family. It is mentioned that it changes the severity of the disclosure. Stories number 18. My M25 girlfriend's F28 belly has started to swell months after giving birth. She refuses to see a doctor and I'm really worried. After giving birth, my girlfriend started developing a noticeable belly again. Sometimes it looks like a huge, bloated balloon, other times it's less prominent, but her stomach becomes round and honestly resembles what it looked like around 6 months into her pregnancy. I'm really worried it might be something serious. I've asked her multiple times to see a doctor about it, but she keeps ignoring me. Sometimes she pretends she didn't hear me, and other times she gets angry, saying I'm criticizing her body especially since she's already struggling with self-esteem issues due to weight gain. I don't know what to do anymore. I feel helpless. I've told her she should get it checked not just for her own health, but also for me and her son. It's not pregnancy. What can I do to convince her to see a doctor without making her feel judged or ashamed? TLDR, my girlfriend's belly started swelling months after giving birth. Sometimes it looks like she's 6 months pregnant. I've begged her to see a doctor, but she either ignores me or gets mad, thinking I'm body shaming her. I'm scared it might be something serious, and I feel helpless. Stories number 19. Aita for not letting my dad walk me down the aisle because he brought his new wife to my mom's funeral. So I, 26F, am getting married this fall, and planning has been going pretty smoothly, except for one huge issue, my dad. My parents had a messy divorce when I was 14. My dad got remarried within a year to a woman who's only 9 years older than me. That already caused tension, but I tried to stay civil over the years. Then in 2021, my mom passed away from cancer. It was sudden and honestly the worst time of my life. What made it even worse? My dad showed up to her funeral with his new wife. Not just showed up, he was introducing her to people, holding her hand, smiling like it was a casual family barbecue. My mom and her had never met. It felt completely disrespectful, like he couldn't even give my mom that one day without making it about himself. We had a huge fight after that and didn't speak for almost a year. He eventually gave me one of those "sorry you feel that way" apologies but never really took ownership. Now that the wedding is getting close, he's assuming he'll walk me down the aisle. I told him I'm not comfortable with that and I'm probably going to ask my uncle, my mom's brother, instead. He blew up. Said I was punishing him for moving on, called me ungrateful, and accused me of trying to ruin his relationship with his wife. She even called me crying, saying I'm tearing the family apart. Some family members are saying I'll regret this later and that I should just let him do it, but I can't picture him standing next to me on that day after how he handled my mom's death. It still hurts. So yeah, Aita. Stories number 20. Aita for kicking an autistic child out of my restaurant for misbehaving. My name is Gina, 55F from upstate New York, and I run a family-owned pizzeria. My husband and I have been in the service industry for decades, and over the past few years, we've noticed a huge increase in rude customers, rude children, and a crazy level of entitlement. One of the rules we have in our restaurant is that nobody is allowed to talk on speakerphone, play music out loud, or have anything playing on speaker from a personal device. This is such a simple request and something that has always been the standard. This was not even an issue or something that needed to be said before the pandemic. But now it seems parents feel attacked if their children cannot watch Bluey on volume. We have signs up asking people not to do this, and we actually do enforce this rule, politely but firmly. A few weeks ago, a woman was sitting with her 9-year-old son who was watching cartoons on his tablet at full volume, while also scrolling TikTok on a phone. I nicely explained to the woman that we do not allow this, as it is disruptive to other customers, and asked her to please turn off the volume. The woman rudely replied that her son has both ADHD and autism, so he needs to do this in order to sit down without making a fuss. I asked if she could please use headphones, and she snapped that her son does not like to use them. I told her that this is not acceptable and to please either use headphones or set his devices to silent. About 10 minutes later, I was in the kitchen and heard loud banging noises coming from the dining room. I came out to find the child furiously banging his fists on the table while the mom just sat there ignoring it. It was almost as if he was waiting for her to say something, but she did nothing. I asked her to please stop him, and she replied that he is on the spectrum and this is just his normal behavior if he doesn't have a device to calm him down. The boy then stood up and started running around my restaurant, punching and kicking the other tables and chairs, and knocking things over. Another customer yelled at the mom to "control your kid or I will." She launched into what sounded like a pre-rehearsed monologue about how autistic children deserve to occupy the same spaces as everyone else. I agree with this, but everyone still needs to behave appropriately. I told the woman that if she could not get her son's behavior under control, that she needs to leave. She was furious and stared, yelling about how it is illegal to discriminate against people who are on the spectrum and that she would report me. My husband came out, put her food into a Togo box and just said to her, "Get out right now." She looked genuinely shocked and said that kids should not be expected to just sit quietly and that the world needs to be more accepting of those who are different. I love kids. My husband and I raised 5 of them, even one with special needs. But autism or not, nothing gives you the right to behave this way in any setting. If your child's issues are so severe that simply sitting in a restaurant without a device makes them freak out and throw a tantrum, then maybe reconsider taking them there in the first place. I'm tired of rude kids and lazy parents who embolden them to behave this way, refusing to discipline them or set any kind of rules or boundaries. This is not about ADHD, autism, or any other condition. This is about entitlement, bad parenting, and bad behavior as a result. Am I the asshole? Stories number 21. My manager secretly paid for my certification exam. I've been working at this company for just under a year, and I mentioned in passing during a 1:1 that I was saving up to take a certification exam to boost my skills. My manager just nodded and said, "That's a great move. let me know how it goes. Fast forward a few months, I passed the exam. When I went to reimburse myself for my learning allowance, which I thought I hadn't used yet, HR told me it was already covered. Turns out my manager quietly submitted the receipt and used their department budget to pay for it, without saying a word. No big show. No, look what I did. Just silent support. Honestly, I've never had a boss like this. It's the little things that make you want to stay. Stories number 22. Aita for refusing to wash a huge pile of dishes at my FWB's house. I stayed over at my FWB's house and in the morning, I woke up to him in the kitchen making breakfast and cooking dinner, for himself and his kids. He has them later today. The breakfast was pasta and bolognese warmed up from previous nights. After cooking, he said something along the lines of, "Since I've done all this, can you wash up the plates?" The thing is, the dishes were a massive pile, stuff left behind by him and other people staying at the house over time. None of it was mine. What bothered me most was how he positioned it, as if he'd done something special for me, and now I owed him something in return. I pointed out that he wasn't cooking for me, the dinner was for his kids and himself, and breakfast was leftovers. I told him not to frame it like he did all this for me, when that wasn't the case. If he had just said, "Hey, since you've got the day off, could you help me with the dishes?" I might have actually considered helping. But the way he framed it rubbed me the wrong way. He then started calling me a whingy bee, etc. For what it's worth, I would never expect someone to wash dishes in my house, especially not a guest, especially not messes they didn't make. So, AITA for pushing back. Stories number 23. My 8-year-old son hates me, and I don't understand why. Hello, some of you folks asked for an update when I first posted, including some who seem to feel lost in a similar situation. I'd like to thank the insane people on my last post who told me to give up on my son. The laughs were therapeutic. And also please never have kids of your own. We took him to get evaluated again as it was pretty clear what we were dealing with was more than just ADHD. It took us a while to find a place we thought would do it right this time, then it took some more time to get a slot, but today we got the official diagnosis. He has the ADHD, and a severe version of it, but he's also mildly autistic. On top of this he has high anxiety and signs of depression. Some of you were suggesting pandas and ODD, and he does seem to have some of those symptoms, but like the autism, there are things about him that don't fit those diagnoses. There are things about him that aren't typical of autism, for instance he loves being social. These inconsistencies and the fact he was younger and had severe ADHD which masked the autism made an autism diagnosis difficult at that time. So why does he hate me? As best I understand it so far, this is what happened. When he was halfway into kindergarten is when it started. His disabilities caused him to struggle as compared to his peers, which led to feelings of inadequacy. Being 5, he didn't have the tools to handle that, so he began coming home from school and destroying the house as a way to express his feelings. We would try to reason with him patiently but he wouldn't hear it. We tried many other ways of helping him, but the house was getting destroyed and the only thing that would get him to stop would be sharp, loud commands from my scary male voice. Stop that. So that's what I would do every time he started acting up, because that's what worked. What I was doing, though I didn't know it, was using his anxiety to scare him into behaving better. As time went on and I continued this, I became this scary figure in his life to be feared, the anxiety built, until it became a complicated hate. So where are we now? He doesn't attack me on sight, usually, which is an improvement, but when I come home from work he often wants to be alone in his room now. When we go out in public things are better, but at home the anxiety he attaches to me is still present, though not as intense. How did I fix it? First, I stayed away. I let things chill out for a few weeks, and when he would attack me, instead of getting angry and punishing him, defending myself by shoving him off me, I remained calm and had my wife correct him instead. Then, I decided I needed to talk to him about all this. I knew that going to his room meant immediate bleeding on my part, so I would armor up in a winter coat and gloves, enter his room, and calmly fend his attacks off. It would end with me restraining him on the floor and just taking to him about his behavior, and why it lead to my behavior, AMD why I never meant to be scary but I had to be scary to stop the madness. This had a little bit of a positive effect, but it took a long time. I did this routine for weeks without much progress. He would attack me, I would restrain him, I would talk and ask him to open up, AMD he would be silent. Then I finally found something that clicked. I told him I loved him and always would, and that I thought he was a special and talented kid, and that I would always be proud of him. He cried in my arms and got angry and wanted me to stop, but I pushed through. So then for a couple weeks I kept letting him know that, and over time his reaction to it became normalized, which is how I knew he really believed and understood it. Now we have a routine I call daddy therapy time, and when I come in his room and say let's talk, he gets straight like a pencil on his bed and I kinda compress him into the bed, and his head hangs off which he likes for some reason. He has been opening up gradually and actually talking instead of just me talking. Some days are still hard, he still takes everything out on me, but that's okay, better me than anyone else, that's my job. I still get bit and scratched but less often now, and I think things will continue to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. For you overwhelmed parents out there, keep trying, there's hope. Stories number 24. Aita for telling my dad he can't stay with us while we care for his wife after she broke her leg. My stepmom, 83F, broke her tibia. They can't do surgery on it, so she has to be non-weight bearing for 6 weeks while it heals. My dad, 72M, and her live off-grid, and when their home became overrun with rats they moved into a 5th wheel on their property. My stepmom is very healthy, she basically takes care of my ADHD dad while he is still working as an engineer, poor financial decisions, he can't retire yet. She grows her own garden and has lived off-grid since before she met my dad 30 years or so ago. She can't get in and out of the 5th wheel while being non-weight bearing, let alone get into the tiny bathroom. Also my dad can barely take care of himself, let alone care for her as she heals. I, 42F, offered for my stepmom to come to my house while she heals. She is one of the most amazing people I have ever known in my life, and she's been eager to spend time with my kids, 7M, for F. I am a nurse, so I know how to care for her, and my husband is a stay-at-home dad who is also a really good caregiver. I see this as a blessing in disguise, as who knows how much longer we will have with her and we get to spend all this time with her. Now back to my dad. My parents divorced when I was 7. As an adult I can look back to the time while my dad was single and see a misogynistic asshole who, when my sister and I showed up for our scheduled time together, told us to get into kitchen and clean the dishes that had been rotting there for weeks to months. He is a man that cannot function without a woman caring for him. He's chilled out a bit in his old age but still cannot care for himself even though he is an able-bodied adult. My dad called me back after my offer and framed his idea this way: he doesn't want my stepmom being a burden, so how about he come and stay with us too? I was straight up and told him he would absolutely make it more of a burden on us. I told him that he wouldn't be helping us with cooking, cleaning, running errands, or taking our kids to their daily activities. Without that kind of help he would be someone I would have to cook and clean afterwards, and it would be too much, in addition to the care we would be giving his wife. He can come and visit, stay the night or whatever, but absolutely could not stay here for upwards of 6 weeks. He sounded hurt on the phone, but it's the reality. Aita for telling him he can't stay with us while we care for his wife. Stories number 25. Why is my partner frequently pretending I'm having nightmares so he can wake me up? 34F, 37M. I, 34F, have been dating my partner, 37M, BPD, for 8 months, and I can't figure out why he lies about seemingly inconsequential things. We are long distance right now, but we hang out through Discord and we keep Discord on overnight, as well. I always go to bed before he does because of different work-sleep schedules. He will frequently wake me up by calling out my name repeatedly, then tell me I was having a nightmare and begin comforting me. Now, there was a period of time where I was having intense night terrors because of medication I was on, and when he'd wake me from those, I knew it was legitimate. But the other times, before and after the period of time I was on medication and actually having night terrors, I would be in either a light sleep half-awake state and knew I had not been having a nightmare, and certainly not to the extent of audibly or visually indicating that I was having a nightmare or in distress. After this kept happening, and because I frequently gaslight myself, I thought, what if I'm having nightmares and just don't remember or realize it? So, I put it to the test. I would lay with my eyes closed and let it appear that I had fallen asleep, and sure enough he has woken me up from nightmares that aren't happening. I don't understand what he's getting out of this. Is it for attention? Is it some twisted way of making me feel cared for? Because it just makes me feel manipulated and honestly angry because I don't get restful sleep as it is, so I don't want to be woken up repeatedly for imaginary nightmares. He has also made up other random white lies that just have no purpose. Like one morning he told me that my cat laid in front of my laptop and watched the entire movie he had playing from beginning to end and how cute it was, even though I explicitly heard him turn the movie off about 15 minutes in when he thought I had fallen asleep. TLDR, why does my boyfriend repeatedly pretend I am having nightmares so he can wake me up and tell other white lies that serve no purpose? Stories number 26. Aita for telling my fiancé that if he expects me to contribute 50-50, we have to make some serious lifestyle changes. My 26F, fiancé, 26M, sat me down yesterday and gave me a long talk about how he feels like I don't contribute enough to the household, particularly in the financial sense. I was a bit caught off guard by this, but was willing to hear him out, since he wasn't wrong. He makes a lot more than I do, and we've always split bills accordingly, which ends up being about 80% him. I asked what he wanted me to pay now, and he was adamant about it being 50-50. I asked if everything was okay with his job, or if he needed to take fewer hours, and he wouldn't answer me. I honestly wouldn't have gotten upset if there seemed like an actual reason behind it, but he just said he'd been thinking about it a lot, over and over, every time I asked what brought him to this conclusion, what was going on, and eventually he just said, "This is how it's going to be, take it or leave it." Those exact words, in response to literally everything I said. Full shutdown. No explanations. I told him that was fine, I'll take it, and then asked if he'd made a Zillow account yet, or expected me to. He looked confused, and asked why we would need a Zillow account. I explained that there's no way I can afford half rent on our current place, so we'll probably have to move into a one-bedroom apartment. He got mad and asked why I didn't have savings. I told him that I do, but I'm not paying rent out of my savings, because that's a terrible and unsustainable idea. I also began to go over what our new food budget would be, our new entertainment budget, and that we'd probably have to sell the cars and get one less expensive one because I can't afford half of the payments on an Audi and a Land Rover. Then I explained that date nights would probably have to be reduced too, and we could still do, like Buffalo Wild Wings or something, but I preferred Thursday nights because you get 2 orders of boneless wings for one. Basically, if he wants me to pay half, we're living within my means, not his anymore. He kind of agreed to it, but since then, he's been incredibly angry. He's not saying or doing anything, but it's like he's walking around the house in this cloud of pissed off. I sent him 6 Zillow listings, all of which he's called uninhabitable for various reasons, some of which I think were valid, others I disagree with. He's now saying that I'm being unfair and manipulative, and that he tried to come to me with a serious concern about our relationship and I'm making it impossible for him to talk to me, and bulldozing over him. Update, Aita for telling my fiancé that if he expects me to contribute 50-50, we have to make some serious lifestyle changes. So, last time I posted was Monday. Monday as a whole was spent just sorting through what I felt, and what to do next. There was a lot of silence and a lot of anger, and a lot of Reddit advice, some of which I found very insightful, some of which was less so. Also, some people think I made this up as part of a viral marketing sponsorship between Buffalo Wild Wings, Audi, and Zillow, which honestly would solve the money problems if true, but alas, is not the case. On Tuesday, after I got home from work, I sort of just walked up to him on the elliptical and explained as calmly as I could that I had questions, and if he actually wanted to marry me, he needed to be willing to answer them. I asked if he thought I was a gold digger, yes or no. He said yes. I told him that I wasn't willing to be in a relationship where I have to prove myself by sacrificing any sort of stability, and that led to a bit of a screaming match, and eventually, a confession. So it turns out we cannot afford anything we have right now. We are in serious credit card debt, the cars are both on the verge of being repossessed, and I did not know about any of this. He's been cutting corners on actual necessities, including psychiatric medication. That in combination with some comments from his family led him to some pretty dark places. My fiancé had a full breakdown and apologized for calling me a gold digger, which was nice to hear, but this whole thing had me pretty shaken up. I went to stay with a friend for a little bit. Yesterday, my fiancé and I did in fact go out to BWW and get the 2-for-1 boneless. We talked, a lot. I'm still writing fiancé for now, and I really hope we can work through all of this. We talked about how to sell the cars, we don't particularly have a choice at this point, and about my income, his income, and the sort of life we want to have. If we do stay together, we'll be changing how we live a lot. We need to get out of debt, we need to get on our feet. I know some people are gonna say I'm being dumb for not immediately dropping all contact and giving up on the relationship, but I can't do that. I can't look at the guy I love, who went off his meds to try and make a good life for me, and think he's not worth sticking around for, at least to try. I don't know what the future looks like at all anymore though, and the wedding is very postponed at the moment. Update 2, Aita for telling my fiancé that if he expects me to contribute 50-50, we have to make some serious lifestyle changes. We are out of debt. It feels so good to say that and have it be true, but as of 3 days ago, everything is finally paid off and we've made our way back onto solid ground. Almost 2 years ago, I made a post here about my 28F fiancé, 28M, wanting to split things 50-50, and my offer of compromising on lifestyle changes. As it turned out, he was off his meds and had managed to get himself into some serious debt, a little under $100K, trying to provide a life that we could not afford on a combined $155K a year. Things were rough. I almost left him a few times. But we have finally made it through to the other side. I handle the finances. 100% of the finances. I give him a budget for buying coffee. It wasn't fun, but in exchange he started doing more of the housework, so it evens out. We moved from our over-the-top apartment into a shared living situation, which, while not ideal, was leagues better than my initial plan of getting a trailer. We have roommates, but they're on another floor, so it's not too bad, and we have our own bathroom which was my only real stipulation. We've lived like we're a 70K a year couple, doing actual 50-50 finances, and every extra penny he's made has gone directly to paying off the debt. We sold the cars, obviously. Traded them in for a nice used Ford Maverick and a Vespa. That helped a lot. There have been no more lavish vacations or over-the-top restaurants with $500 price tags. It was rough for my fiancé at first. He's always been very much a rich boy, and I think losing that as an identity was difficult for him. That being said, he's gotten so creative lately, it's been amazing to see. He will make me things if he can't buy me things, and we've started cooking together instead of having me do almost all of it. Our room is covered in the things he's made for me, and it's really lovely. We're still in love. We're still going strong. And we can finally start actually planning our wedding again. We're gonna get our own place first, but the wedding is next on the list after that. I'm so glad that we stuck with this, and being on the other side is the greatest feeling in the world. Thank you to everyone who offered advice. Love, I don't know how things would have ended up if I hadn't had the courage of my convictions, and I'm genuinely grateful to those who directed me to Dave Ramsey and Caleb Hammer. Y'all are awesome. TLDR, we made it out and are officially debt-free. Stories number 27. Aita for not letting my daughter drive until she pays for her mistake. I co-parent my daughter Ava, 18F, who has just passed her driving test, and my ex and I bought her a car. Within a week of owning it, Ava parked in a tow-away zone, and it was towed. I told her to take responsibility for her mistake and pay the $100 fee, as her insurance doesn't cover it, warning her that they can add all sorts of fees if she waits too long. Ava had booked a weekend away with some friends and had already paid for her share of the hotel and transport, so I told her to use part of the fun money she saved for the trip on the fee. She still had time to pick up an extra shift at work to make it up before the trip, or go away with $100 less. She chose not to pay, as my husband and I refused to, and by the time she came back from the trip, she got hit with a $300-something bill as they added a daily storage fee and a hookup fee. I told her that her actions have consequences and that I had warned her and she was old enough to drive, so she needs to take full responsibility. She told her dad, who paid off the towing company for her, and I am upset that she hasn't learned a lesson from this. I tried to speak to my ex, but he said she made a mistake and it's only money which can come back any time. I have since confiscated her car keys, telling her to pay me the towing fee instead, and her dad thinks I am being too harsh, after Ava called him to complain about me. Stories number 28. Mike 22M, GF, 24F, mad I slept with my neighbor. I was 21 when I moved into my own apartment. A cute girl lives across the hall from me, so we started flirting and that led to us having sex. One-time thing, no interactions with her since other than saying hi in the hallway. After that I met my current GF, which I've been dating for 6 months now. We talked about how many partners we've had before but never specifically mentioned who they were. Anyway, yesterday 2 of them met in the hallway as we were going to my place. GF said she's cute and asked me why I never made moves on her. Then I told her we actually slept together once and she was so shocked and pissed off. I tried to apologize, talk or do whatever, but she refuses to talk to me. Even if I had any kind of relationship with the neighbor I would end it immediately for my GF. How can I handle this and smooth it out? Edit. There's been some helpful advice, some not so helpful advice and a lot of double standards in my opinion. I'll listen to those few helpful ones which basically say the same thing and let her chill out for a few more days, and if she still continues to ignore me I guess that's it. Stories number 29. Aita for leaving my roommate GFS waiting for me to get home. My roommate's invited his girlfriend for the week. Yesterday he was working so his GF went out alone during the day in the city. I was finishing my job at 6 p.m., my roommate later, so my roommate texted me his GF number to see how we could do because her phone didn't have any battery left and she wanted to get in the apartment. I text her, I tell her that I soon won't have any connection, telling her I'm having a beer with friends and I send her the location. Telling her come here, I'll give you the keys or wait for me in front of the apartment when I come back. Sending her this and then warning her that I won't be able to respond back. She sends me a text telling me okay, I'll wait for you, I don't have the money for an Uber to get to you, I mean you can also take the metro. It's a long ride but you can take the metro. That's what I obviously do. So anyway I drink my beer blah 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 and then I come back. It's busy with the metro etc, so it takes me a lot of time to get back. Didn't necessarily rush to finish my beer and then to get back home takes me around an hour. So I arrive home almost 2 hours after she sent me the text. She is sitting just in front of the house and absolutely yelling at me, telling me I'm an asshole etc. She waited 2 hours in the cold without any battery left on her phone. Roommate is the same, yelling at me telling me how dare I leave her girlfriend 2 hours outside. I'm kinda like I just wanted my beer after my job in Mayo isn't my girlfriend and I offered her to join me to get the keys. So am I the asshole? Stories number 30. Aita for bailing on my best friend's wedding after finding out I'm not in the wedding party. Known Jake for 16 years, since we were 10, and always thought we were ride or die. Was super supportive when he met Sarah, helped plan the proposal, and he literally called me first when she said yes. In years we became distant in terms of daily communication, but whenever we meet up it was like we saw each other yesterday. Last month I casually asked about bachelor party plans and discovered not only am I not best man, fine, that's his brother, I'm not even in the wedding party at all. He picked work friends he's known for like 2 years over me and like he said that he didn't know if I could come since we are like an hour and a half drive far from each other. When I asked why, he gave some BS about keeping numbers even with her side and like he said that he didn't know if I could come since we are like an hour and a half drive far from each other. I technically was also saving up some money so that I can get a nice gift and get a nice suit. Was going to use that money to fly across the country for their destination wedding. After finding this out, I made up a work excuse and bailed completely. Now Jake's blowing up my phone saying I'm being petty and his fiancée is saying I'm making their day about me. Aita for not wanting to watch my supposed best friend get married from the random guest section. Stories number 31. Wibta if I went behind my husband's back and got a job. I, 38F, have been a stay-at-home mom for 17 years. My husband, 44M, is the only breadwinner, if you can call it that. I've gotten a job offer that would allow me to bring in about $1,200 a week before taxes at a local grocery store. Every time I bring up the job offer, he shuts me down. All our kids are in school during the day, but they eat lunch at home. I'm responsible for pick-up and drop-off for our elementary-aged kids. This job would get us, mostly him, because I am listed as his dependent, off of welfare and into a better financial situation. Would I be the asshole if I jumped the gun and took the job behind his back and only tell him the day that I start work? To be honest, getting this job would make me the main breadwinner in the household. It would also allow me to get out of the house and away from him while the kids aren't home. Another advantage is that I would be able to put some money aside for my escape fund. Edit. I just realized that I said $1,200 a week. It's more like $1,200 every 2 weeks. I typed out this text so fast, I didn't read it over. Sorry for the confusion. Stories number 32. Aita for telling my MIL that her generous offer was actually a manipulative way to control my life. So I, F30, am engaged to my fiancé, Mark, M31. We're getting married in 6 months. Mark's family, especially his mother, MIL, are a lot. They're quite wealthy and traditional, and frankly, MIL has a habit of trying to micromanage everything in Mark's life, and by extension, now mine. The big drama started around the wedding venue. Mark and I found this beautiful, slightly unconventional place that we both absolutely loved. It's an old, restored theater downtown, exposed brick, a bit quirky, totally us. It's also pricey, but within our budget if we make some compromises elsewhere. We were so excited. We told Mael and FIL. FIL was reserved but seemed okay. Mil. She visibly recoiled. Her dream, apparently, was for us to get married at the same exclusive country club she got married at, where all their friends have weddings. She started immediately listing all the problems with the theater venue. Parking will be a nightmare, it's not sophisticated enough, what about the acoustics for the string quartet I was planning? We weren't planning a string quartet. Then came the offer. MIL sat us down and said, very formally, that while she and FIL were disappointed we weren't considering the country club, they understood it was our day. But, because the theater venue was so much more expensive than what they had budgeted for, which we never asked them to budget for, we had our own budget, they would graciously offer us a substantial sum of money enough to cover about 40% of the theater venue cost. It sounded generous, right? Mark thought so. I was immediately wary. MIL's gifts always come with strings. I thanked them but said we had our budget covered and would be fine. MIL got this tight, almost angry look. She said, nonsense, darling. A wedding should be a celebration, not a financial stressor. We want to do this for you. She kept pushing. FIL added that it was a genuine wedding gift, no strings attached. Mark was beaming, thanking his parents profusely, saying how amazing they were. I felt cornered. Eventually, I caved and accepted, still feeling uneasy. Later that week, MIL started sending me links. Links to florists near the country club. Links to bakers who only deliver to the country club. She started asking about decor choices that would only make sense at the country club. When I gently reminded her we were having the wedding at the theater, she'd get flustered and say things like, oh, right. Well, this florist might make an exception, or it's just so much easier with vendors who know the traditional venues. The final straw came last night. We were at their house for dinner. Mil brought up the venue again. She said, now, about the ceremony flow at the theater. I was thinking it might be easier to have the reception at the country club after. Just the reception, you know, for dancing and easier bar service. I snapped. I looked her dead in the eye and said, Mil, with all due respect, this stops now. We chose the theater. We love the theater. Your generous offer wasn't about helping us, it was about buying control over our wedding to force it into being your dream wedding at your preferred venue. You didn't give us that money to help us have our day, you gave it to try and manipulate us into having your day. The table went silent. Phil looked horrified. Mark looked utterly stunned and then furious. Mil's face crumbled. She started crying, saying how could I be so cruel, that they were only trying to help, that I was ungrateful. Mark jumped up, yelling that I had massively overstepped, insulted his parents, and ruined the evening. He said I was being paranoid and that their offer was genuine and I was just being difficult and unappreciative. We left immediately. Mark is barely speaking to me, saying I owe his mother a huge apology and that if I can't be respectful to his family, maybe we need to rethink things. Mil is apparently distraught. Part of me feels justified because I truly believe her gift was manipulative and a way to leverage control. But another part of me is reeling from the fallout. Did I handle it badly? Should I have just accepted the money and ignored the suggestions? Was I too harsh? Aita for calling out my Mil's offer as manipulative control instead of just accepting it quietly. Stories number 33. When no one wants kids anymore. Sometimes it makes me a little sad to see how much life has changed. More and younger people today are choosing not to have children, focusing instead on careers, independence, or just trying to survive in a tough world. I understand that life is expensive, uncertain, and often overwhelming, but we can't ignore what this trend is doing to our societies, especially here in Europe. Birth rates are dropping fast. Whole countries are aging, shrinking. If this continues, there might come a time when the cultures and peoples that built these places, with their unique traditions and values, are simply gone. Replaced not just demographically, but culturally too. This isn't about blaming anyone. It's just a quiet grief for what might be lost, a way of life, a heritage, a future that once seemed certain. Stories number 34. Isn't it harder to fall in love with someone as you grow older? 38 years old male here. In my teens and 20s, I fell in love several times. Sometimes I had a crush on a girl because of her looks, sometimes because of her personality, and sometimes for reasons I couldn't even explain. The last time I had a genuine crush on someone was when I was 28. Since then, I haven't felt a strong romantic attraction toward anyone. Sure, I've seen women I found cute or attractive, but it was purely physical. I didn't feel any emotional pull beyond that. I miss the feeling of being head over heels for someone. Am I the only one who feels kind of jaded with age, unable to fall in love as easily? If you're like me, don't you miss that feeling too, and how do you deal with it? P.S. For context, I did date a bit in my 30s, but it was mostly casual. I didn't really fall for anyone. Stories number 35. Aita for refusing to make my wedding kid free for my fiancé's niece with autism. I, 32F, am getting married in October. My fiancé, 34M, has a 7-year-old niece who is on the spectrum. She is sweet, but also has frequent meltdowns, sensory issues, and tends to scream or bolt from rooms unexpectedly, including at a family barbecue last month, which ended in her knocking over a table of food. We want a peaceful, intimate, adult-only wedding with no exceptions. We sent invitations specifying no children under 12. His sister, the mother, called in tears, saying that excluding her daughter is ableist, and she wants her included so she can experience normal events like weddings. She even suggested hiring a sensory guide to help her cope at the event. I said no. I don't want the added stress or the risk of a meltdown during the ceremony. My fiancé supports me but is getting pressure from his whole family. Now they're calling me cold and discriminatory. I don't think weddings are the place for experiments in inclusion. Aita. Stories number 36. Customer mistook me for staff. I rolled with it and sold him a laptop. This happened last year. I was heading home from work, still in my office getup like blue button-up, black slacks, dress shoes, the whole corporate misery package. Stopped by an electronics store with my brother since he needed some last-minute stuff for a trip. I'm minding my own business in the laptop aisle when this older gentleman, probably late 50s or early 60s, walks up to me. Without missing a beat, he starts firing off questions about laptops like I had a name tag on or something. I guess the business casual outfit gave off tech guy energy. Honestly, I was bored, and I love nerding out over tech, so I leaned in. Gave him the full Best Buy Geek Squad experience. Talked processors, SSDs, graphics cards, how his son could use it for work, casual gaming, Netflix marathons, or pretending to work while watching cat videos. I was on a roll. I even started using hand gestures like I was pitching a used car. I was out here acting like I was about to earn commission or something. After like 30 minutes of me basically hijacking the sales floor, the guy's like, "Awesome, I'll take it. Can you check me out at the counter?" Cue awkward pause. I go, "Sir, I don't actually work here. I'm just shopping." Man looked like I told him his dog was actually a cat. Straight up confused Pikachu face. He asked why I helped him for so long then, and I told him, because if you talk to the actual salespeople here, they might have upsold you on some overpriced paperweight. I just didn't want you to get scammed. He laughed, said thanks like 100 times, and even tried to buy my brother some earphones as a thank you. I was like, "That's sweet, but no worries, it's cool. Plus, I already spent enough of your time pretending to be an employee." Funniest part. Some actual employees walked by while I was in full salesman mode, and they didn't say a word. Probably thought I was their coworker they hadn't met yet or some new guy from a different shift. Anyway, 10/10 experience. Hope his son loved the laptop. Maybe next time I'll start charging consultation fees. Stories number 37. AIO husband says inheritance is ours. A couple years ago my parents passed away and left me a large inheritance. My husband keeps saying it's our inheritance and he spends money on things we don't need and expects me to just pay the bill for it. I bought a house which we needed because we've been full-time RVing for 8 years and I wanted to have a home again. The remainder of the money I have invested, but he keeps wanting to check my account and see what's what because he's my financial advisor. He's constantly trying to say how I can spend the money. Am I overreacting or do I need to move money into a secret account to keep him from nosing into my business? It bothers me that he's acting this way. We've been married over 40 years and we both worked hard our whole marriage to have an early retirement. It's always been 50-50 relationship, so am I wrong for not wanting him to manage my inheritance? Stories number 38. My dad wants to sell me his house below market value, but my stepdad says I'm screwing over my sister. Am I? My biological dad owns a house in Pennsylvania worth about $300,000. He still owes around $100,000 on the mortgage. He's getting older and has mobility issues, and the house is no longer ideal for him. He offered to sell it to me, 25M, for $140,000 so I can move in, renovate it, and take care of him. He would live there with me as long as possible. I live nearby and am willing to do the caregiving and handle the renovation work. My sister, 33F, lives in Texas and isn't planning to come back or help with his care. She also doesn't plan to have kids or get married. I do plan to start a family, and this house would help me build a stable future. Plus, it would keep the home in the family. My stepdad is really upset. He says I'd be screwing over my sister by getting the house for less than market value and insists I should give her half the value, as if I were getting a $300,000 house, so she'd get $150,000. But my dad is still alive, and this is a private sale, not an inheritance. Also, this deal for me would have little to no benefit financially if I had to do that. If my dad sold the house on the open market, my sister and I would get nothing. He'd keep the profit and likely downsize. Or if he keeps the house and eventually ends up in long-term care, Medicaid could force the sale or take the value anyway. To be fair, my dad has already said that if I get the house, he's open to giving my sister a larger share of his life insurance to even things out. That seems reasonable to me, but my stepdad is still furious. I think part of his anger might come from his own past. I don't know every detail, but his parents owned a business, and his siblings apparently got a much larger share than he did. I understand that resentment, but I don't want his past to cloud what's actually normal in a situation like this. I don't want to cheat my sister out of anything, but is this actually unfair? Or is this a normal, reasonable deal in a situation like this? Stories number 39. To fool by getting a tattoo of my mom in a bikini. My dad passed away a few months ago. I was really close to him and I miss him a lot. My dad had quite a few tattoos, but one of them I remember dearly. It was this pin-up style tattoo of a lady in a Hawaiian skirt and coconut bra on his calf. I always liked that tattoo, even though it was pretty badly done. Most of the color vanished over the years, and I remember our dad letting us color in the tattoo with markers when he wanted to take a nap and keep us busy. My mom always disapproved and I never understood why, until now. One day, about 2 weeks after he passed away, I was walking around the city and came by a tattoo shop. One thing led to another and I walked out of that shop with the same tattoo my dad had, the lady with the coconut bra. The artist did a great job at recreating the tattoo and I was very happy. Until I got home and wanted to show my mom. My aunt was there, my dad's sister, and started laughing like crazy. My mom looked quite shocked. Not the reaction I was expecting at all. I didn't understand what's happening until my aunt told me, well, now you've got your mom on you forever. In a skimpy outfit. Great choice. Well, long story short, my dad got this tattoo about a year after they started dating. She wore this outfit to a party, took a photo, and he got it tattooed a few weeks after. Great, fucking great. I was a bit confused because my mom has always had blonde hair, the tattoo lady's got black hair. But apparently she had a short phase of dyeing her hair black for a few months. My mom always hated that tattoo, they almost broke up because of it back then. She made him swear that he's never gonna tell anyone the story behind that tattoo. Hence why I don't know anything about it, and I never asked. I thought this was just a random tattoo he got on one of his many vacations. Well, now I have a tattoo of my mom in a coconut bra. Great, my mom told me she doesn't mind and that it's kind of funny now. But I'm really thinking of getting it removed. At least it's on my ribcage so I can hide it for the time being. I really don't want to show the world my mom in a bikini. TLDR, my dad passed away and I went and got a tattoo he had. Turns out the lady on the tattoo is my mom in a bikini. Stories number 40. So we've paid your rent, have we? I was renting a 6-bed house with 8 others for 2 years. We were all in our 20s, earning good money and partying hard. The landlord didn't want to deal with us individually, so it was decided that one person had to be responsible for paying rent for us all. The person who paid the rent, Dave, also paid the initial deposit. Dave had rich parents, so he always had spare money to help out, and everyone agreed that he was a great bloke. Dave promised to pay the rent for the last month for us all if we cleaned the place up, £600, when the contract ended. The house wasn't trashed, but needed a bit of deep cleaning, decorating and a few repairs to get the deposit back. It was 6 months' rent of £3,600, which was a lot in the 1980s, so we agreed. Unfortunately for Dave, he was away when the landlord came to do an initial inspection to let us know what needed to happen for the deposit to be returned, and in conversation, it turned out that the rent was being split 8 ways, not 9. Dave had been living there rent-free for 2 years without us knowing. We had a massive party over a long weekend, drinks were spilled and a food fight broke out on more than one occasion. We didn't put anything out for the dustmen for 2 weeks, cleaned nothing, and all moved out the day before Dave got back, 1 day before handover. Surprisingly, he managed to get £400 of the deposit back and tried to make us pay the outstanding money we owed him. He gave up after threats of police involvement if he tried to pursue it. I found out years later that our actions totally wrecked his plan to put a deposit down on the house he was saving up our money for. Stories number 41. I gave the personal information of the boss who fired me to identity thieves. I was a whistleblower working for a corrupt company that was stealing taxpayer money, and management suspected I was the whistleblower, although they couldn't prove it. However, since employment was at will, the boss claimed it was for some other reason, which was BS. In between submitting job searches to unemployment, I went online and gathered all of the information I could about him. Through poorly redacted public documents, I found a social security number. I was able to find his driver's license number, mother's maiden name, date of birth, etc. At the time I was receiving a lot of spam, which was evidently from identity thieves, asking me to submit personal information to receive a small fortune. So I replied with all of his information. Every time. I don't know what happened to him, but I wound up doing much better financially than if I had stayed in that hole. I make my own karma. Stories number 42. I 25F regret leaving my ex for my 30M husband. I've been married for 3.5 years with my husband. Our relationship has been hell and now it's crumbling down. I wish I would have stayed with my ex. He was an amazing guy who would have done everything for me. We were together for 5 years. I was dumb and left him because I wanted to drink and he didn't like it. Me and my husband hardly speak without fighting, and I'm just here wishing I would have stayed with a man that I know without a doubt in my head that he loved me. I was so stupid. My husband is a chronic liar, as my ex never lied. He was actually perfect. I was the bitch. I look at my husband as my karma. He's my karma for breaking my ex's heart. I know I'm an awful human. I just need to rant. Yes, I'm in therapy, but I don't discuss this because I know he'll judge me. How bad am I? Stories number 43. Ex-boyfriend reaches out after 2 months post-breakup on Valentine's Day to get a very precious item back. Not the pettiest revenge you've ever heard, but still something. I, 26F, broke up with my ex, 26M, a couple of months ago after being together for 1.5 years, mainly because he treated me really poorly and wasn't there for me during tough times. Everyone can be there for you when things are good. But if you don't show up for each other during the hard times, what's the point of having a relationship? About a month after going no contact, and after his trip to Vietnam with his single best friend, he suddenly decided he regretted the breakup really badly and tried to get me back. But yeah, too little, too late. Instead of actually apologizing or owning up to what he did, he sent me vague texts like, "Our communication went wrong because there were so many emotions involved." Not a real apology. No accountability. Just a fancy way to dodge saying, "I messed up and I'm sorry." He had the emotional intelligence of a doorknob, so I wasn't exactly surprised. Then, out of nowhere, on Valentine's Day, he texts me, "Hey, when can I pick up my wooden cutting board?" Yep. 2 months post-breakup, and suddenly this man is thinking about his wooden cutting board to chop some veggies. For context, it's a random board from Amazon, worth maybe €25, and he's very rich. This clearly wasn't about the board, just a sad excuse to see me. But yeah, sorry buddy, you lost the privilege to ever see me again. I told him I had exams, which I did, and made him wait a couple of weeks. During that time, he kept texting me, asking when he could come over and pick it up. After everything I went through during the relationship, I was finally doing really good and feeling myself again. I kept asking myself, do I really want to see this guy again? Will it do any good to me? But this man was following up like his life depended on that cutting board, so I decided to ship it to him. I packed it up and brought it to DHL. I also stuck a small note on the board, "Happy cutting. I hope he lives happily ever after with his wooden cutting board now." Haven't heard from him since. Stories number 44. Aita for refusing to include my cheating ex-husband's new wife in our daughter's graduation photos. My daughter, 18F, just graduated high school and it was a huge deal for us. Her dad and I divorced 6 years ago when he left me for his now wife. Our daughter stayed with me full-time, but still had a relationship with him. At her graduation, he showed up with his wife and tried to orchestrate a big group photo with everyone, including her. I quietly asked my daughter if she was okay with that and she said no, so I stepped in and said we were doing separate photos. His wife made a whole scene, saying I was bitter and setting a bad example. I calmly said, "This isn't your moment to be included in. You weren't around for the late nights, the tears, or the tutoring. This photo is for the people who were." My ex is now blasting me to mutual friends saying I embarrassed him and diminished his wife's role in our family. Aita for protecting that boundary. Stories number 45. Process server lied about serving my deceased father. My father passed away 23 months ago. Last Wednesday I was alerted by my security camera that there was a man in the driveway of my home. I was at work and the man knocked on my door and then left. He returned again that evening after dark and shoved an envelope underneath my door. I was home when he came back that night but I did not answer the door because it was a stranger at night. The envelope was a notice that my father was being sued. When he passed away he owed $115 on a Mercury Bank credit card. I notified them he had passed away and I did not receive any further correspondence. According to information in the suit, the debt was sold to NCB Management Services and they are now suing my father for $3,500. I contacted them the following morning and told them he was deceased, and they told me to mail the paperwork back to them. I asked them where to mail it, because it was not mailed to me, it was just shoved under my door at night. NCB management told me not to worry about it, there was nothing to do. I went online to look at the case record and now see that the case is continuing and the guy that put the envelope under my door was a process server. This is what the court document says. On 4/30/2025 at 8:05 p.m., I served citation and petition upon my father's name, by delivering one true and correct copy, IES, thereof, with my father's name. I delivered the documents to my father's name, with identity confirmed by subject nodding when named. The individual accepted service with direct delivery. The individual appeared to be a white male contact over 65 years of age, 5 foot 8 inch - 5'10", tall and weighing 180 to 200 pounds at my address. I have it on video, him just shoving it under my door and no one being there. Obviously he could not have served my father because he is deceased and I am a 5-foot female, so I don't think he would have mistaken me for a 200-pound senior white man if he did see me when I came home from work. I feel like this has to be illegal or perjury or something. My father did not have an estate or will or anything, so I'm not the executor or anything. The only property was our family home that was TOD to me. My mother and siblings are also deceased. There was nothing to probate. I don't even know if I can answer the court on his behalf because of that. Stories number 46. I work 1 week a month and no one has noticed, while on a high salary. I make $80,000 a year, and I've become so efficient at my job that I only put in about 1 real week of work every month. The rest of the time, I'm just watching TV shows, listening to podcasts, or diving into random rabbit holes online. When I first started, I was always behind. I didn't have a formal education in this field, I just picked everything up on the job. Over time, I got fast. I type at around 75 words per minute with basically no errors. Then I started figuring out shortcuts. I realized I didn't need to use the bloated industry software we were told to rely on. I could do everything faster and cleaner with Excel. My reports are crystal clear, and if there's a mistake, it's easy to spot. No one complains. In fact, I'm the top performer at my company. I have the best relationships with clients, I meet all my deadlines, and my work is spotless. But the truth is, I only really work for about 1 week each month. The other 3 weeks, I just kind of exist. I used to read a ton too. 1 year, I read 200 books. I've done deep dives into every topic I care about. And now, I'm just bored. I thought doing everything right would feel good. I'm overachieving and underworked, and somehow I feel worse than when I was struggling. Quiet quitting isn't even the right term. It's more like silent burnout. Stories number 47. Wanna see how much I really do for you? Shortly after graduating college, 2000, I took a 20% pay cut from my blue big box store assistant manager job to manage a rundown strip mall chain, fancy card and gift store or FCGS store because I wanted a challenge and wasn't being treated well in the boys club at the Big Blue. You may have heard about the multiple class action lawsuits for crappy pay and discrimination, but that's a story for another day. The FCGS owner was a woman and very nice, so I was excited to be treated with more respect. Wound up being salary on a 50+ hour a week job. I was yelled at for ordering wrapping paper gift bags tissue because the walls were bare. I was yelled at for an hour long distance phone call that cost $5 when my friend was having a meltdown over an unplanned pregnancy. I offered to pay but they wouldn't let me so they could teach me a lesson. What? At 3 months they offered me another bigger brand new store because I did such a good job on the one I was running. Things were great there. I worked less hours, customers and staff were happier. A few months into that, they wanted me to take over the second highest profit store in the chain, of 12. The catch was I had to do both. No biggie. The store I was currently in ran beautifully with the awesome employees I hired. I asked for a 50% raise and was told I had to prove myself for a month. Friends, I fell for it. After redoing the layout, cleaning top to bottom, actually organizing the storage room, remember this is peak porcelain statue times so lots of tiny boxes, and still no raise, they asked me to train this woman right out of college on store operations. She and I became fast friends and we started hanging out after work. We started talking. She said she was supposed to take over the big store in which I was currently proving myself. The owner never told me this and didn't tell her I didn't know. I thought she would take over a new location. Remember, I'm running all the operations for 2 high-profit stores and continually increasing sales. She was brand new, no experience, I had 6 years experience in retail management, her degree was in English, mine was in business marketing, and best of all, she was making $5,000 more than me, and the most of any of the managers. Excuse me, here's the petty part. I saw the error of my ways and devised a plan. I talked to all of my employees in both stores, 15 people, and let them know I was planning on leaving and what the owner had done. You know the kind of people who work at FCGS's, kind, supportive, caring. This was too much for them, too. 2 weeks later, the new manager and I went to the main office, met with the owner, and turned in our immediate resignations, and the immediate resignations of all staff but 3 single moms who couldn't quit immediately. She was livid. She yelled and cursed while we snickered. Within 3 months the original store closed. A year after our resignations, the second and third stores closed. That was pretty gratifying. I think my friend and I may have skipped like children out of the office that day. I definitely know we hit the bar and took ourselves out for a nice dinner. Fast forward 25 years later, I'm still friends and co-workers, in an entirely different field, with one of the 2 main office workers that was there that day. She has given me the full details and the repercussions of that day. These stories still fill me with joy and pride. TLDR, boss disrespects manager and loses 1/4 of their business within a year, or boss plays FAFO and loses. Stories number 48. I lost my virginity when I was age 12, but I tell men age 18 when they ask. When I was 10 years old, I moved to a new community and started a new school. I didn't look like 10 because I was tall for my age and had wide hips. My neighbor had a son who was 4 years older than me and I had the biggest crush on him. I used to sit at my bedroom window and watch him play football with the other kids every day and dream about him. After about a year and a half, I became friends with his cousin and I told her about my crush on him. She told him and he said he liked me too. I was so excited and happy my first crush likes me. He asked if we could hang out, so one night I lied to my parents to make it happen. I told them I was going to hang out with my friends across the street and snuck over his house instead. We hung out for a while, then he started kissing and touching me. I was confused because I wasn't exposed to or understood sex at the time. I didn't even know how a baby was born. I was a very sheltered child because my parents were overprotective. I was naive and stupid. Anyway, he started touching my vagina, then inserted his fingers. He was 16 and I was 12. It hurt so bad, but I went along with it because I wanted him to like me. He then pulled down my shorts and inserted his penis without any warning or telling me what's happening and started thrusting. It was painful and I was confused and unsure of what's happening to my body, but I just froze and went along with it because I thought it was normal. He did his thing and came in about 3 minutes, then cleaned up and told me to leave. He never spoke to me again after that. He told the boys in the community and I felt so ashamed. I was teased and labeled the easy girl. I never spoke to any of them since that day and just pretty much stayed inside until I left for college. I'm so messed up from that incident. I think it's why I have low confidence, self-esteem issues and relationships issues. Stories number 49. The Japan you see online is not what I lived. It's been a week since I got back from Japan. I spent a month there. Still sitting with the whole thing. Visually stunning. Clean streets, serene temples, the kind of aesthetic that burns itself into your brain. But something else came back with me too, and it's not the kind of thing you post on Instagram. Before the trip, I didn't just pack bags. I packed prep. I read blogs, watched hours of travel vlogs, practiced Japanese phrases on repeat. I learned what not to do, what not to wear, when to bow, how to say thank you with the correct level of humility, and many other etiquettes. My expectations were shaped by countless articles painting Japan as a near utopia where people are endlessly kind, strangers go out of their way to help you, and the technology feels like something from the future. 1. Apparently, that was too optimistic. First red flag, small town in Nagano. I got seated at a round table with some locals. A minute later, they asked to be moved. Awkward, but fine. Then 3 white tourists came in. Suddenly the server was all smiles, walking them through the menu like it was a Michelin tasting. My food? Plunked on the table like a passive-aggressive post-it. No words. No eye contact. Just the sound of a plate meeting wood. And that wasn't an outlier. At another nearly empty place, an East Asian group got table service. We got handed a buzzer. In Tokyo, at a sushi restaurant, I watched a South Asian group and a Latin American one both get told, takeout only. Reservation wasn't the problem as walk-ins after them were seated immediately. Then there was Osaka. We lined up outside an okonomiyaki spot. Staff made eye contact, scanned our faces, and suddenly announced the line was closed. No signs. 2 hours before the stated closing time. As we were walking down the stairs, other groups strolled right in. Not a word said. Tried exchanging my MCO for a JR pass at Namba station. The actual info desk was closed, so I asked a ticket agent for directions. He laughed, literally, and said, "So you know this isn't the right place, then why are you here?" Very helpful energy. When I asked again, he gave me the wrong location. Said it was downstairs. Turns out, it was 10-minute walk away, in a different building altogether. Even asking for directions in general was hit or miss. Some people would look through me. Others walked off mid-sentence. In Tokyo, I saw a server happily and proactively explain where the tea dispenser was to a Japanese couple. He never mentioned it to us and we overheard it. He spoke English too, so that wasn't it. After the meal, I said, "Gakisasama deshita." He smirked and looked away. It was almost impressive. The pattern was clear by then. Locals walked into warm greetings. Irashimasu, with all the energy of a welcome home. Us. A faint nod if we were lucky. Leaving was just as awkward. Staff rarely acknowledged us, so we'd turn back, smile, and say, "Arigatou gozaimasu," first hoping for even a glance. Most times, nothing. Just silence. At one spot, after we'd finished our meal, we took turns using the restroom. The staff stared at us the entire time. Not curious, but a sharp stare which leaves you uncomfortable. The place wasn't even busy. You'd think we were shoplifting oxygen. If you're dark-skinned or black, these things build up fast. None of it is loud. No one yells. No one confronts you. But they don't have to. The exclusion is quiet, calculated, and cold. You're not pushed out but you're made invisible. Polite on the surface, but distant enough to remind you that you're not really welcome. The racism is passive, but it's there. You see it in the subtle ways your presence is either ignored or avoided. It's almost as if your experience depends on the skin tone. By the end, I felt Japan isn't really even trying if you don't fit the ideal tourist image. The tourist floodgates are open, and if your experience sucks, there are 1,000 others behind you ready to take your place. Courtesy becomes selective. Hospitality, conditional. I got the sense that Japan is a society deeply rooted in pride, with humility mostly reserved for the brochure and for those who fits the mold. It often felt like it's their way or no way. That mindset bleeds into the national narrative too. Japan continues to highlight its own wartime suffering, but there's a remarkable silence, even denial, when it comes to acknowledging its atrocities in places like Nanjing, Taiwan, or its treatment of prisoners of war. In the end, what stayed with me wasn't the temples or the technology or the scenic views. It was how easily I was made to feel like I didn't exist, over and over again. I just wanted to get this off my chest as this has bothered me deeply since last few weeks and to educate the masses about the true Japan which you don't often see on the internet. Edit, follow-ups. During my research, I did observe negative experiences from Black and fellow POC. However, I also came across positive experiences, such as street interviews on YouTube, top-rated Reddit posts, or blogs that appeared on the first page of Google search results. In hindsight, I believe they were PR-driven. This mixed outcome from the research and balancing it with other unique cultural experiences, geisha, samurai, Edo architecture, temples, tea ceremony, etc., in Japan, I proceeded to approach the trip with an open mind, but I also considered the potential for discrimination, although not at the magnitude, openness, or persistence that I personally experienced. Stories number 50. Attempt skip triage in ER backfires. I'm a doctor in a children's ER. A family arrived to our triage check-in desk. Their daughter had experienced a medical event at home that can certainly look scary, but is actually very benign. She was well-appearing, and back to baseline. Our triage staff got them checked in, and informed them that it would be a while before they come back to a room, because we're busy, 30-plus kids in the waiting room. They didn't like that response at all. Raised voices, a bit of cursing. Eventually, they go sit down. Staff asks if I can speak with them, so I step out there for a minute, go say hello, take a quick look at her, assure them we'll get them back when we can. They didn't stay seated long. After about 10 minutes, they inform the front desk that they're leaving, and storm out. Okay, they had, what they thought, a brilliant idea. They walked about 1 block away outside the building, and called 911. An ambulance came, and picked them up, drove about 100 m to the ambulance bay, and then brought them into the ER. They were inside the main ER, and had skipped the line. Very clever, yes. Our docs go to see each ambulance arrival as they bring the stretcher in, just to lay eyes on the patients. We immediately recognized each other, and it was very apparent what they had tried to do. I let the paramedics know that the child is stable, and can go back out to triage to wait again. By the way, several more patients had checked in during the meantime, and the wait time will be longer. Of course, this didn't sit well with them. I'm pretty sure they left without being seen, and went to another hospital. Stories number 51. My husband is still best friends with the girl he had a 6-year long-term relationship, and admitted I was ugly when they recently hung out. 32F38M. I have been married for 4 months now, and we had dated for 2 years prior. This girl has been in his friend group for quite some time now, and it was never an issue till recently. We had hosted a little celebration recently, and at a point all the ladies were gathered in a room, and I was chatting with her. She's unmarried and 3 years older than me, and is stunningly pretty too, like model gorgeous. So we were laughing and talking well, till she brings up my husband. Asking me how it's going and if he was troubling me in any way, in a joking manner. She then pulls her phone out and scrolls down to show me pics of his from before. I was surprised she still had pics of that time. But nearly every single one of them were during the time they dated, and when I got uncomfortable and told her to stop she just laughed it away. My husband was in his 20s then, she called it his prime, and they traveled more than me and him ever did. What shocked me most was that she showed me pics and videos of them having traveled Barcelona twice, and this was shocking because when I told him about visiting that place, he outright refused it and said he hated that place, calling it boring. At a point I was tired of her telling all their stories so I left. It was probably a bit stupid to get angry about something like this, but I decided to leave the room. Later on, somewhere around late night, all his friends were down in the living room. One of their spouses had to breastfeed so I gave her a separate room for privacy. I thought of joining them all but then I heard one of the guys talking about how my husband's parents accepted me in the family. He and his family are all Koreans, and most of his friends mostly belong to the same community. I am from Indonesia and it was a lot of trouble when he told his parents about me. Though all of that has been fixed now, it felt weird to listen to that again cause a lot of slurs are still thrown around even though I've been living here for years. My husband told him it's been tough but it's alright now. And then his friend who I was chatting to earlier talks about how she had sent him on many blind dates with pretty women and decided to choose me. They all were drunk, so maybe they didn't know or didn't mean those words but it still hurt a lot. They all started laughing loudly, telling my husband how I was a bit ugly according to his standards in the past and one of them even acknowledging his relationship with the girl. My husband then said words I never imagined he would, telling them that I might be ugly but I married her. Someone who used to comfort me when I cried or bring me to shop and gifted me clothes, someone I was now trying to have a kid with admitting I'm ugly felt terrible. All the incidents of the day just came down and I walked out before I heard too much. I decided to shower and then go to sleep before they all did, but even this morning, after they all left and my husband slumped back in bed I still keep thinking about it. It's difficult to convince myself now that they're only friends, they have a longer history than I did with him, and his friends acknowledging it was even worse. This morning, despite his state he hugged her goodbye and arranged a pack of sweets he told me she likes and to enjoy on the trip back. It's been eating on my insecurity, especially after seeing the pictures. My husband looked much younger, without the fine lines now appearing and the youthful look back then. A part of me is jealous I never enjoyed that part of him, whereas she's not only more rich than me, but also too pretty, and it hurts after being called ugly by someone who I thought loved me. This has been bugging me for a while and also seems like a very stupid thing to confront about, so can any of you give me advice of what to do? TLDR, recent union of friends resulted in my husband calling me ugly and having to scroll through his old pic with his ex. Edit. She even talked about sending each other bouquets without roses but gifts instead. I used to tell him that I wanted one of those for my birthday with books, but he told me he had better things in mind and never gave me one. I feel bad that he didn't do it when I asked him, but was a routine for someone before me. My husband is still best friends with the girl he had a 6-year long-term relationship, and admitted I was ugly when they recently hung out. 32F38M. So I shared about this incident to my friends, and they have urged me to make plans with them to Barcelona itself. I agreed and we went to do a bit of shopping for it. I have been feeling way better now after talking to them and all the support you guys gave too, so I'm really grateful. My husband had been texting me continuously for a while now. I am staying at my friend's house for a while. I texted him saying that I wasn't happy with the company he kept and told him about what his friend did, showing me their pictures. I also told him that he admitted I was ugly to his friends. He's answered by saying that he was mostly drunk and didn't mean it, and that he and his friends' culture is where it's normal to comment on people's appearances and not take it to heart, and said all the cheesy stuff after that about how he still thinks I'm really beautiful, but I can't accept that anymore. He told he'll talk to his friends about it and ask them to apologize. I also told him that I can leave if he still has feelings for his friend, and he said that it was all a past fling and there's a reason they broke up. He told I'm the one he wants to have kids with, but I feel like he wants me to be a baby-producing machine for his family. I am still looking for a lawyer and my brother has offered me help too. He got really angry after hearing about the situation. I have a place of my own where I might shift to after I come back from the trip. My husband is back to constantly calling, though I texted him to stop and he hasn't done anything yet. I'm still a bit confused, but I think this trip is going to help me clear my mind. I haven't told him anything yet, and I am thinking of blocking him in my socials, though my friends suggest he see that I am living my best even without him. TLDR, we only talked over text, and I've planned a trip with my friends already. Stories number 52. I'm 18 and there's a 32-year-old man in my class who's making me feel unsafe. Is this normal? I'm 18 and I started this course a few months ago. There's a man in the class who's 32, and I don't know how to say this without sounding dramatic but something feels really wrong. I feel scared around him. I don't know if I'm overreacting or if anyone else would feel the same, so I'm posting this here. At first, he seemed friendly. I thought it was just normal small talk. He also has a friend in the class, he's 29, who's been nice too. So in the beginning, I didn't think anything weird was going on, but after a few weeks, I noticed this 32-year-old guy only talks to me when there are very few people around. He never comes near me when his friend is around. Only when we're basically alone, or the room is half empty. He asks me really personal things like who my friends are, what I do during the day, how I get to class, what time I leave. And while he's doing that, he always tries to touch me. Like touching my shoulder, putting his arm around my neck, grabbing my cheeks like I'm a little kid. Once he stood way too close behind me when I was sitting and didn't move until I got up. I don't know how to respond. I go quiet. I don't give him the answers. I feel uncomfortable and I think it shows, but he just keeps doing it. One day when I was alone, he got super close and whispered in my ear that I was too beautiful. I froze. I didn't know what to do or say. It felt so wrong. Then he disappears. For days or even weeks, he doesn't talk to me at all. Doesn't say hi, doesn't look at me. And then out of nowhere, he comes back like nothing happened and says stuff loudly like, "She's so beautiful," or "She's my favorite," like he wants me to hear. I just ignore him. One time he tried to force me to accept a follow request on Instagram from a fake account. When I said I didn't want to, he got weirdly angry and started saying, "You're so mean," over and over again, almost yelling, like 10 times. He said I hated him. I didn't even know what to say. I just felt so cornered. Another time, he gave me a candy, and I know this sounds paranoid, but the wrapper looked like it had already been opened and reclosed. I didn't eat it. I just felt really uneasy. Now I feel like he's watching me all the time. Especially when I'm talking to other people. And I swear it's like he's studying me, learning my schedule, figuring out when I'm alone. He has a girlfriend. He says it openly. So why is he acting like this? He never touches me or talks to me like that when his friend is around. Which makes me think, he knows exactly what he's doing. I haven't told anyone. I feel like they'll say I'm being dramatic. But honestly, my gut is screaming that something is off. I feel like I'm in danger and I can't explain why. So, is this just awkward behavior? Or would you be scared too? Stories number 53. Aita for reconsidering my engagement after he told me he will cheat on me if I don't have sex with him. We had a talk and my anger exploded on him. I said pretty mean things to him. Nothing too crazy though. I told him that I will never respect a cheater. He basically told me that he will always want a good sex life, and if I stop having the same priority, if he doesn't have an option to have sex with other women, he won't have a choice but to divorce me. Do I prefer that to him cheating when we have kids and house, or do I prefer he divorce me and destroy everything we worked for? That honestly took me by surprise. I don't really know which of those two options would be better. Some part of me thinks that it's foolish to destroy a marriage when you have built so much. Obviously a better option is for him to talk to me about it and we can figure it out together. He said that he can only control what he can do, he doesn't have any way of controlling what I would do. So if I refused to work on things or made excuses or didn't put the effort, he doesn't have any other choice. He then asked if I am telling him that my requirement for him is that he be okay with extended period without sex without proper effort from me, then he is not the guy for me. I said I don't know what I want, which is true because I didn't think about it all until he dropped the bomb on me. He just said to me that until I figure that out, I have no business being engaged to anyone. He left, engagement is off. We haven't broken up, but it feels like it. I called my mom and I can tell she is very disappointed, but she did her best to not show it. What I still don't know is what is right or wrong here. I get it, sex is important for men and they are willing to end decades-long marriages for it. I understand their reasoning as well. Everyone is free to end marriage for any reason. I also know that if I tell any man that I need him to remain with me for extended period of time without sex, they would not like it. Some part of me also agrees that cheating can be better than divorce if you have a happy home and family. But another part doesn't think cheating can ever be justified. I just can't get out of my head that I will be in the same position if I break up with him and marry someone else. So that's basically it, engagement is off, my relationship hinges on my knowing what I want and I have no fucking clue. Stories number 54. Aita for not letting my boyfriend come on vacation with me because he's a picky eater. Edit, I am breaking up with him. After seeing a glimpse into my future via your responses, I realized I cannot do this and it will eventually wreck us. Thank you. My boyfriend has tons of food restrictions and is picky in general. He basically can only eat chicken fingers, grilled cheese, mac and cheese, and pad thai. I've never seen him eat a vegetable. We just started dating a few months ago and I love him, but I eat everything and am very laid back. I know I will have to plan my entire day around finding food he can eat, on top of listening to him complain that things aren't the same. Even if a restaurant does have chicken fingers or mac and cheese, it won't be the same as what we get at home and I just don't want to hear about it while I'm on vacation. Aita. I feel bad. Stories number 55. Tofu by wearing new shoes to a wedding and becoming an accidental sideshow. I went to a wedding 2 weeks ago, not super formal, but fancy enough that I wanted to wear something decent. I had just bought new dress shoes a few weeks ago, finally grabbed a nice pair since I'd won a jackpot on stake slots and figured, why not treat myself a bit? What I didn't do was break them in. Rookie mistake. Cut to the wedding reception, I'm dancing, sweating, trying to keep up with my girlfriend's friends who all apparently learned choreography off TikTok or something. Mid-spin, I feel my socks start to slip. Turns out, the back of the shoe was rubbing so badly that it shredded my sock and the back of my ankle. I mean blood, folks. Blood in the sock. Blood in the shoe. And because I kept dancing through it, drinks were flowing, vibes were up, I didn't notice until I sat down and left a little red smudge trail across the venue carpet. I died instantly when I saw it was trailing right back to me. Lucky the wedding was quite big so not many people noticed, but those around me did. The bride actually came over to check if I was okay. I had to explain that no, I wasn't dying, I just didn't prep my shoes like a functioning adult. TLDR, wore brand new dress shoes I splurged on to a wedding. Didn't break them in. Ended up bleeding through my sock and almost onto the dance floor. AIO for canceling the vacation I planned after my girlfriend compared it to trips her friends are going on. I spent the last few weeks planning a trip for my girlfriend and me. It was meant to be a fun and relaxing getaway. Flights were booked. I picked a nice Airbnb. I covered everything out of pocket. At first she seemed happy about it, but then she started making these little comments like, Maimu's boyfriend is taking her to Greece, Agnes gets 5-star resorts, Ebba is going to Paris, Freja's man bought her business class tickets, stuff like that. She was not directly insulting the trip, but the way she kept comparing it to what other people were doing started to wear me down. It made me feel like what I planned was being measured against some imaginary standard I was never going to meet. So I canceled the trip. Told her it did not feel good to put time and money into something just to have it picked apart by comparison. Now she says I overreacted. She thinks I took it too personally and made it a bigger deal than it was. But I felt disrespected and honestly still do. Am I overreacting or was this a fair response to how she acted? Stories number 57. Trying to performance manage me out of a job. I'm up for the challenge. Years ago I worked for a supervisor who just didn't like me. No reason why, since I just came to work, did my job, and went home at the end of the day. But he decided that I was terrible at what I did and decided to performance manage me out of my job. Game on. He wrote me up for some vague bullshit and asked me to sign it, but since it didn't show any hard facts and data I asked for examples of this. Meeting ended with document and sign since he didn't have an example for this. Tried it again with an example this time and I asked how often this would be reviewed for feedback, how the feedback would be given, and how the improvement or non-improvement would be measured. He hadn't have a solid answer, so again no document signed and the meeting ended. The next time he had HR in the meeting and had all his documentation and the answer to my questions from the prior meeting. He decided to be so smart on how feedback would be given daily via email. I signed the paper and he gave a smug smile. Next day comes along and shockingly there was zero feedback given. No email sent for the rest of the week. Get called into a meeting with boss and HR with a paper saying there was no improvement and I was being put on warning for termination and oops I'm sorry but can you show me the emails where feedback was given daily as outlined? There were none. Meeting ended. Next day email sent with feedback. I responded with facts and data. No response. Day after email sent with feedback. Again responded noting that I hadn't gotten any follow-up for the day before and responded to that day's email with facts and data. Third day I again noted that I hadn't gotten any answers to the prior 2 days' questions and added facts and data for this one. Then I CC'd the HR person and sent it back. Apparently after much discussion boss decided that it was too hard to performance manage someone out of a job and my work was suddenly just fine after all. Stories number 58. Aita for losing it on my husband and MIL after she hit our son. I'm F30 and my husband is 29. We have a 3-year-old son. He is from South America. I'll call him Juan. He came to my country as an immigrant and can now stay permanently if he wants to. I've only met my MIL in person on the day of our wedding and she seemed like a nice old Latin lady. I'll call her Maria. She recently came to the country for a few weeks. Juan invited her, so she could meet our son and see the wonders of our country, like gray skies and old buildings and old people. She absolutely loved our son and was so happy to see him and play with him. Everything went well, but one day I left him with her for a moment while Juan and I went shopping for dinner. We were out for less than half an hour and when we came back our son was crying and came running to me as soon as he saw me come through the door. I asked Maria what had happened and she said, he was misbehaving so I hit him with a spoon and he started to cry. I couldn't believe what she had said so I asked her to repeat it and she did, saying it as if she was proud of it. I asked her why she was so proud of hitting my son. She said she only hit him once, as if that was better. This started an argument. She said that children need to be hit once in a while or they'll become delinquents. She said that all her children were regularly hit with spoons or sandals and they all turned out fine. I couldn't stand it, so I told her to get out. She could stay in a hotel that wouldn't let her near my son again. She was so angry and started insulting me in Spanish which I only half understood. It took me 3 hours to get her out of the house. Then I continued to argue with Juan because he said nothing the whole time. He said he didn't like it but it was true that they turned out well. I said corporal punishment is never okay but that made him angry. He said, I challenge you to find a single mama Latina who has never hit her children, not even once, but that's the way we were brought up because otherwise we would have become weak men. And then he went on to say that I was suggesting that an entire culture of millions of people had been brought up wrong and that was racist. That is the short version, because we ended up arguing most of the night. I didn't let Maria see our son until I went back to her country, and one went to sleep with a friend. All my friends put it down to culture shock and that I'm crazy to die on that hill, and one is still very angry with me, so Aita. And racist? Edit. Thanks all for your support, thanks for clarifying it isn't a cultural thing. Yes, there is older people in my own country who still defend corporal punishment, but am inciting that this is a cultural thing and therefore shouldn't criticize it was bullocks. I try to contact him to talk but he keeps leaving me on read while uploading stories at a pub at the same time. I'm furious honestly. But I'll see what I can do. Update, my MIL hit our son and my husband defended her. Hi everyone. It's been a while, I had forgotten about this account. But I was cleaning this computer before selling it and I was still logged in. So, on my last post, my MIL came in to visit our country, MIL and my husband one are from South America. We left her alone with the baby for a moment only to find out she had hit him because he was behaving like a baby. My husband defended her. And called me racist because according to him, every Latin American parent hits their kids and it's okay, but it's not okay with me at all. So, the situation kept going on for a while, this became a huge issue in our marriage, and then one confessed that he had also hit our son when I wasn't home. He believes that is the only way to discipline a child and that, gentle parenting, doesn't work. That was it for me. The problems got bigger and bigger while he kept insisting that this way of parenting of the reason why Latin Americans are more resilient than northern countries, and that people in here are too soft and sensitive. We started fighting every single day, and then I just asked for a divorce. After that he became so verbally violent that now we communicate through lawyers only. I have plenty of evidence of him confessing to hitting our son, while he in his testimonies confirms it but says, is not that serious. This is stressful and I'm not doing well, so I have to sell a few things to pay for bills and debts. I'm going for full custody while he is doing the same, claiming that I'm an unfit mother for not teaching our son discipline. Well, enough of my drama, I have to go and do something else. Thanks everyone. ETA, I wasn't expecting so many people to read this, but wow, thanks everyone. To be clear, my husband wasn't beating our son in a way that could put his life in danger, but for example, wrapping a spoon in clothes so when it hits, still hurts but leaves no marks on the skin. He described this to me as a way to make me see that is not that serious, but is still unacceptable. This is not an attempt to make Latin people look like abusive parents, but one really thinks that because growing up he normalized it, he really thinks that everybody does it, and the people who wasn't raised that way are weak. And yes, we had talked about how to raise our child, but I always thought that not hitting them ever was obvious. I'm not sure when I might update with something important. I don't even have a court date yet, so it will take a while, but I'll be reading your comments. Edit 2, thanks for all of your support, but I can't keep reading your stories of child abuse. I'm so sorry, I'm glad the majority of you are doing better now, but I just can't keep reading them. It's actually making me feel so bad, that's the downside of having empathy. Sorry. Update, my husband left the country. I have no fucking energy for context here, I'm so damn angry and frustrated. My husband and I are divorcing but this is so slow as you can imagine. He has been such a pain in the butt about it and trying to put every roadblock he could think of. He got silent for some days, damn silent, like he fell off the edge of the earth. Then he sent me a message of him, with his mom, on a beach, with a beer, and a caption that said in which translate to something like try to ask me for child support from here, you be word, and then blocked me. I'm so angry, nobody knew he left the country, his friends, co-workers, the girl that I have a suspect he was cheating on me with, nobody. Seems like he is at his home country and yes, he is from a coastal city where some of his family members still live in. I'm damn devastated and feel so stupid for ever thinking this could ever be a good man for my child. I was fighting to get custody of our child only to run away like a damn smirking coward. I wasn't expecting to become a single mother with a deadbeat husband at my age but here I am. Edit, thanks everyone but I need to clarify a few things. I'm not in the US and my husband is not Spanish. I think I previously said he was from Latin America. I don't want to be rude but Americans are not helping themselves by forgetting that there are other Spanish-speaking countries than Mexico and Spain. I had a long cry on my mom's shoulder and I'm exploring my legal options, which, yeah, things might I think be better from now on but the process will not be as quick as some of you think. In the real world the legal system goes very slow. Thanks again. I appreciate your support and that's why I keep coming back. Stories number 59. They said it was just a quick charter trip. It fed 7,000 people. I didn't know what I was walking into today. I'm a school bus driver. My company donated a bus for a school's annual food drive, and I got randomly assigned to run the charter. Honestly, I expected something small, a couple of boxes, maybe a single trip at most. As I drove up, I saw two massive piles of boxes out front. I'm talking hundreds of boxes and bags, stacked tall and wide, just shy of my height and stretching across the front of the school. It was incredible, and it wasn't even the whole load. It turned out that this wasn't just a food drive. It was a lifeline. And then I saw the rest outside as well, stretched across the front of the school in two massive piles, all of it packed thoughtfully in neat boxes, carefully organized and ready to be moved. Turns out, this wasn't a small food drive, it was 15,000 cans and 10,000 in donations. Enough to support 1,000 local families every single month for 7 months. The food bank literally relies on this one school's drive every year to keep their shelves stocked through December. I immediately got to work, loading, unloading, sweating, laughing. The teacher kept saying she was surprised I'd jumped in so hard and that drivers usually didn't get involved like that. But it never even occurred to me to sit back. At the end, the food bank director came on the bus and explained just how critical this drive was to our community, my community. I felt my throat tighten, eyes start to water, and managed to hold it back until I got home. Then I just let it all out. It wasn't about charity. It was about solidarity. I felt something deep today, something real and humbling, and now my body hurts but my heart feels full. I refused to take payment for the charter, it didn't feel right. Being part of this meant more to me than any paycheck could. I'm not sure my company even knows how much I represented them today. But that doesn't really matter. Today was a reminder of who I want to be, someone who shows up, gets dirty, and cares. No applause needed. Just knowing 7,000 of my neighbors won't have to wonder about their next meal. That's more than enough. Stories number 60. My husband made me think he was going to kill himself. He is on a work trip. We've been going through a rough patch after I discovered he was watching porn more often than trying to be with me. He had promised he wouldn't drink on the trip, and when he spoke he was clearly intoxicated. I was angry at first and then I was terrified. I stayed on the line with him for 3 hours. I texted with his sister who called the hotel. While we waited, I sang "You Are My Sunshine" to him. I thought he was dying alone in a hotel room. He was outside walking around. He had me on mute and was walking around. While I absolutely fucking sobbed. I had texted his with colleagues. I arranged to rent a car. I prayed on the phone when I have no faith. I was desperately trying to save a man who was just acting. He is trying to do it again today. We have 2 kids and he's 9 hours away. I can't control him. I can only control me. This is abuse. On me and my kids. But I have no idea what to do. Edit, I have no family or friends to move in with. My family is in another part of a state and making friends as an adult is hard. I did have the police called, but they never found him and told my sister-in-law they did everything they could. When we leave it will be with nothing. He has my car.